record here, and we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1. Action. Well, what do we have here? We have Mr. Max Mortimus. Welcome. You're all grown up now, living on your own, and got friends and partying in university. You came to visit us. How are you?
I'm doing fine actually. Have had a good time here. So
we're
nothing crazy new. Just not a. I mean, it's a bit new going to school again, but it's been all right.
It's so different seeing you. You actually have some light. You know, usually you're like in some dark attic. Like that's where everything happens. You know, but you know you actually have some sunlight.
I mean, I usually keep my door open back at home when I'm in my room, but that's about it.
Well, anyway, we have a podcast to record and we have an intro to drop. So I'm going to do that and then we'll catch up with you in a minute. Okay?
Yeah.
Nitro is the glory. Welcome to the N.O.R.R.C.A podcast with your host tonight, Keenan White, aka Lefty the Great, and if you are unlucky, the Finnish village idiot, JQ. This is the RC podcast with no name, but plenty of content. So sit back, relax, and get ready for some serious bench racing.
Yes, indeed. Nitro's the glory, but E-Buggy pays the bills. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 142 of the No Name RC podcast. I'm your host, Keenan White, a.k.a. Lefty the Great. And to my virtual right is university student Max Mort. So what's up, Max?
Yeah, all's good. Life is treating me good. So yeah, nothing crazy. Oh, I kicked my camera.
Yeah, I see that. Your ring light.
My setup is a bit janky here. It's
all right.
It's a bit gypsy way to do it, but we're fine.
Yeah, at least you're getting it done. We're gonna talk about you and your university after I say some thank yous and whatnot here, Max, and some condolences. But first off, I want to say thank you and shout out to all of the N.O.R.R.C.A squad around the world. Without you guys, we can't do this. It seems you guys really enjoyed the Ryan Pavitas podcast last week. We're trying to get be a little bit shorter on our podcast, get through them faster as well. You know, 5-hour podcasts once in a while is okay, but not all the time. So thank you to all that downloaded that and listen. If you haven't, go check it out. It's on YouTube everywhere. Podbean, iTunes, everywhere like that. It was a good chat. Thank you for you guys for your support. We can't do it without you guys. So yeah, thank you. Thank you to the patrons of the N.O.R.R.C.A, another group of people that go the extra mile. Thank you guys for your extra support. You guys this week's kind of been messed up with me. I was planning on having everything done yesterday and just recording with Max here. This is Thursday. But I had electricity issues, so now I have to get an inverter or something here in the office. But they probably won't get
third world for you.
Yeah. My house had electricity. My house, which is literally around the corner, had electricity, but I didn't have electricity here all day yesterday. So I couldn't record with my guest, who I'm recording with today, who is J.R. Sitman, who is the founder and president of N.O.R.R.C.A, who was the guy who started N.O.R.R.C.A and all of that. So it's a good chat with him. And I can't, I want to get, it'd be interesting so people can hear his opinions on why he started N.O.R.R.C.A and all that type of stuff and whatnot. So anyway, the patrons will get that early this week because they're a patron. And if you wish to be a supporter of the podcast and go the extra mile, you can at patreon.com/NNRC podcast in all caps, except for the podcast. That's just normal podcast. So yeah, every little bit helps, and I greatly appreciate and thank you to all the patrons. Thank you to all the sponsors of the podcast. They are Mayako. I'm getting excited. I'll have my car soon. Beach RC. I was talking to Brent earlier this week. Thank you for their support. TNR Fuels. I saw Cavalieri running their fuels this past weekend at JBR. We took a picture with him, so that's probably a sign that he's going to be running them. Hitec RCD. I got my new charger. Max, I sent you the screenshot, geeking out over it. Like, we can follow that on our phones, and I can start it and all that stuff. So happy about that. Tekno R.C. was watching the Icebreaker 5150 movie. We're going to talk about that later on, but Tekno R.C. featured heavy in that. Sun City RC Raceway, they are gearing up for the U.S. Open in October. Lugs Racing Tires. So Lugs Racing Tires, they've been on the podcast for over a year, for just under a year now. And Lugs Racing has over 55 years of combined RC experience. They've been testing treads, tires, and wheels for performance. They just launched their long wear tread that you can now pick up with their popular tires that are in their premier brand, which are the Protos and TQs. You have the Lugs Econ tires, which use old molds but high quality rubber to give you these savings that you as a basher or maybe a beginning racer need. So you can get maybe not the best tread patterns, but you can get the same rubber compounds and use them, and they are a bit cheaper. So you can go to www.lugsracing.com, use the promo code NNRC Lugs in all caps, save 30% off your order. They also have tires in medium, soft, super soft, and mega soft, as well as the long wear. Check out the Protos and TQs. Those are their premier tires, and they got some truggy tires in too. So good stuff to Lugs. Good to see them growing. And remember, showing them some love shows the podcast some love. Manscaped.com. I need, all supporters out there. Christmas is coming up. Max, spend some of that money that you made while you was working and go over to Manscaped.com and join the 2 million men who are joining Manscaped. And
2 million.
Yeah, over 2 million men worldwide that are into this new manscaping thing. I've been manscaping for many years. I've been using the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0 for now over 6 months. I have not cut myself. I'm a happy man. My wife is happy. We're all happy. So cut through the jungle to find your manhood. Also, that weed whacker. Oh, man. Man, when you get older, Max, and you start growing hair out of your other orifices, like your nose and your ears, you're really going to like that weed whacker because it just gets up there and it, gets rid of all that hair, and it charges up. Even charges up on the USB port of the new high-tech charger, which I made a commercial about doing that the other day. So you guys can help out the podcast, help keep Manscaped a part of the podcast because it is not a RC brand. We have had this for over a year. I like to keep them on. So go tell your wives what you want for Christmas, non-RC related. Get yourself a performance package, weed whacker, the nail clippers and stuff are really good. The boxes are great. You won't regret it. Get some of the ball moisturizer too. You won't regret that, trust me. And you can do all of that by going to www.manscaped.com and using the promo code no name in all caps, and you will save 20% off your order and get free shipping. So thank you to Manscaped, and please, everybody, go get yourself Manscaped and cut through the jungle, and it helps out the podcast. Also, shout out to Papa Willie's Traction Tonic, a longtime supporter of the podcast. They've coming up with something new. I saw him post some pictures of some banana, so maybe he has a banana flavored or smelling traction compound coming out. But Scooter has been a long-time supporter of the podcast, and like he does in Sense. So he has like different watermelon.
Yeah, but I mean, what's going on? Like, come on.
Yeah, people like it.
For drag racing,
racing,
I kind of get it because they have to use it. But for
in
off-road,
and oval,
your car smells like a banana. Like, come on, guys.
Hey, I remember
what are we doing?
We used to put scents in our nitro fuel. You didn't know that?
Oh, yeah, that's fun. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah,
but you didn't do it for like performance.
No, you did it
for like hanging around like after the race is over.
Yeah, but we did it just to smell different. Go to www.papawillies.net. We have a promo code which saves you 10% there, and it's NNRC in all caps. Thank you to Scooter and Papa Willis for their continued support. Shout out to Donathan RC. I'm geeking out over my oh man, I didn't even have her. I had this whole handful of cables here. They are working great. I actually have to probably place an order and get some cables with some XT90s, and I need to get some adapters made for my my new charger, because it takes an XT60 in, and then like I'm gonna make some adapters, which Zach does, for bullet connectors. So check them out. Geek out on your cables. I am, and they are quality cables. They are going on vacation for a bit, so you do have a bit of a wait time. But a small business in R.C., everything is crafted in America using quality products. And these guys really take pride in their work. And you can save 10% off any orders over $50 with the promo code NoName10. Thank you to Donathan R.C. And thank you to Racecraft USA. They picked up on our last podcast and put our video up there of me talking about them last week. You can check that out. Great grunter guys. I like their enthusiasm and their energy in R.C. Their product is awesome. Check them out. Get yourself pitted with a command module. Use promo code NNRC Squad and you save 10%. RCGP, we heard that episode 4 is coming out soon. Great. That's awesome. And they obviously had to cancel, which would have been the fourth round because of COVID. But talking to David, plans are still a go for next year. It just matters on COVID if that happens. And of course, shout out to House of RC with their new 1.3 version. I know I'm saying we're going to go shorter, but I went kind of long that. I do apologize, guys. Remember, showing the sponsors some love shows the podcast some love. We have links with all the coupon codes in the written description of this podcast and also on that Linktree link. Please, guys, click on that link. It helps me out. I pay for that. So I want to make sure I'm getting all the analytics from that. And also, if you go and check us out on YouTube, don't forget to hit that sub notification, dislike, or like button, and leave a comment. And also, don't forget to leave reviews on Apple, iPod, and just, help us out. Like, help push the NNRC more out into the algorithms and get our message out there. Before we go on into what we're doing, Max, we have a few condolences we have to send out. I'd like to send condolences out to Nick Watlett, Wally Builds, and his family. They lost their sister last weekend. Very young lady. I'm not sure how she passed away. She doesn't have anything to do with RC, but Wale's our friend, and anybody, he was close to his sister, so it's very sad. So our condolences go to Nick, Caitlin, and all the Wally Builds family and the Watlett family. Todd Putnam. I did not know this gentleman. I've heard his name. He's synonymous in the oval world, and well known there. He used to work for Trinity before, but really big in the oval road, and a motor guy. This guy apparently was. He's really a genius with motors. And unfortunately, he passed away this last week as well. So I'm not sure what happened there. And then another fellow racer, I don't know him. I saw Tim Lyon posted this, and then I was talking to my buddy. He knew him. Cody, our condolences go out to the Janjovic family. Cody passed away this past week, I believe, as well. So it's always sad when we see people in our RC community pass away. We don't want to see that. So our condolences go out to everybody who's involved with that. And you have it's sad to see. All right, Max, real quick. So university life. So I asked you, you've been partying. Has it all been partying and women for the last 3 weeks? Or has it actually been, like, what's university life? Because you're actually doing, unlike Joseph, who just went to university to do the classes and did not experience university life, you are there living and experiencing university life.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think he lived university life for a bit, but not definitely for the whole time. He went sort of a little bit different route. But for me, really, it's so far been just like pretty much like hanging out with people, just starting getting knowing people and knowing the school. And there's been like lots of introduction classes and that. So I'd say like this week is like the first proper school week. Mm-hmm. So nothing crazy happening before this week in terms of school. But like obviously the last 2 weeks been a bit more busy because all the activities we did with like, there's like guilds for all the different things you can learn. So all these organizations have parties and stuff. So That's what's been going on for the last 2 weeks.
Do they have like frats and sororities there? Is this like American school at all?
No.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, there's a few people who like buy a house together or rent a house together, but it's not like America. And there aren't like people aren't living at the school. Everyone has like their own apartment. Really, they can share an apartment with someone, but it's not like sort of American style college.
So-
at least what it is in movies.
Okay, right. So you're staying in an like a 3-bedroom apartment with some friends or what? How did that work out?
Oh, that's just random people.
Oh, okay.
There's an organization that probably has a contract with the city
Okay.
government, and then they rent out apartments for students.
Got you. Okay.
That's how it works.
All right, I understand that. And how's
But
that?
I mean,
like-
I could have went to a apartment there where it was just me. It would just cost more.
Okay. So are your like roommates axe murderers or anything like that? Reindeer hunters, maybe?
Both are Russian.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Yeah, you
They
are
talk
close to
together,
Russia.
so-
Yeah, no, aren't you?
Oh, it's like a half an hour drive away from the Russia.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Great.
But it's only like a couple hours away from home. So Finland
Okay.
is very close to Russia. We share 1,000 kilometer border with Russia. So
Have you told them what you do? Like that you might hear me talking into a microphone for like 2 hours about something you have no idea.
no, not really. We just say moi, which is hi in Finnish.
That sounds
That's all we
about
really
right.
talk.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna live with these guys. I'm never gonna learn anything about them, and just say hello. Sounds about finished
Yeah.
to me. All right. So exciting. Not the stories I was expecting to hear, but okay. Not the stories I'd probably be bragging about if I was going to university.
Yeah, well, I mean, last week was a bit more crazy with all the parties and stuff happening. But yeah, I mean, let that just be.
Are you going to these parties in your hoodies? Please don't tell me you're wearing these hoodies. to
Oh no, it's
parties.
all outside. It's all outside.
Oh, okay,
So
so you have
I
to wear
always
them.
wear like yeah.
So you're in your
So, I
safe
mean,
place.
And it's not like parties. It's just
Yeah, I
like
know what you
people go buy drinks and go walk outside. And then it's like all the university people, and
Let's
that's
fix
how
the
it works in
world.
Finland.
Yeah, that's what you guys were. Let's go fix the world.
Well, not really. I mean, and then it always ends up at the bonfires. It always like there's a place to be found near the school where there's lots of bonfires. So everything that happens always ends up there. People stay there for like 5 a.m.
Okay.
So that's how it goes down, and then they just go to classes after that.
Yeah, sounds like a good life for a 21-year-old. Bonfires and drinking till 5 o'clock in the morning and going to school after that. Great way to learn. Great way to learn. I hope you enjoy it. I mean, that's part. How long are you going to be there for?
Well, the first part of the studies is 3 years, and then I gotta apply for a master's degree, and then it's 2 years. So at least 3 years from
Okay.
this point.
All
But I
right.
mean, I can do whatever I really want. But
No,
yeah,
but you have no
that's it
racing
now.
coming up. Racing's done for you till next year. Are you going to
Oh well, there's 10 scale. There's 10 scale racing, but
Okay.
to be honest, I'm not really too into doing 10 scale at the moment. It's like you gotta practice for it, and 10 scale for some reason you use a whole lot more tires there. I don't know how that's possible, but you gotta spend a lot of money on tires if you want to be anywhere like competitive. Like because you gotta practice with new tires to get the setup right. That's what
Gotcha.
I hate most about 10 scale.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, I hope you might want to do some 10 scale racing to keep your skills up and keep your interest in RC.
Last winter I drove a lot with the V.R.C. Pro, the simulator. I
Okay.
did that last winter a lot. I think I'm gonna do it again. It's okay. It's not perfect,
But it
I
does
think
help
it's
a
not
little
the
bit,
worst in
right?
10 scale. Oh, I mean, I would say I'd rather do that than do 10 scale.
Whoa. Well, the VRC guys are going to like that. This is going to be a clip. Let me write that down.
Yeah.
My-
But I mean, I'm really a fan of the game. There's some things that feel a bit weird, but apart from that, I'm really a fan of the game. And yeah, so I wouldn't don't practice your driving style or don't practice changing anything, but to practice keeping in sort of in feel of your driving, it's okay, and it's really good with that.
I think it helps too because I remember when I got on it real hard back in 2014 before I went to my first race here, and I hadn't raced 8 scale in years, and I did some two-wheel drive in England, but it helped me. I think I definitely think it helps. I definitely think it helps.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, what I said about doing VRC or 10 scale, like if you're racing 10 scale, then obviously you have to race the cars to practice. But because I'm only driving 10 scale to keep sort of the feel for 8 scale,
right.
because in Finland there's really no point trying to run 10 scale competitively, and in Europe there's pretty much like Euros, and those are always a pretty bad race. Okay, EOS, but I don't really like carpet racing. So in Europe, there isn't really a way to run 10 scale, like only, or run 10 scale as you're even like high up on your list of classes. I'd rather run touring cars competitively than run 10 scale, really, at this point.
Is that bigger in Finland, touring cars then?
Not really. They're both about the same. But the thing is with 10 scale is like during the winter, everyone runs like some races. So there's like, even Joseph was running before the race last weekend. Joseph was running at the track. He didn't come up to the race, but he was practicing there. So everyone has a 10 scale. So there's like some races, there's some more people, some races there are less. And it's not like, but no one's taking it like, apart from like a few guys, no one's taking it that seriously.
Yeah, Nitro definitely sees
everyone's
a bit of
focused
glory.
on 8 scale.
Yeah, Nitro's the glory in Finland. As for myself, I have not been up too much. I went out to go test one of my boats that I picked up, a jet boat from Thrasher from Streamline RC. I got it. It's different. We went out to La Boca and we had to come back home because I had to figure out how to program the ESC. And then when I got all that figured out, it pissed on rain. And then yesterday I told my buddy, I was like, well, I'm not going to record because we don't have any electricity. Let's go to test out the boats. And then, of course, it rained from 3 until 8 dark. So that messed up my day for doing that. But nothing serious going on here. It's been hot here in the DR, and summertime's winding down, and hopefully it cools off for next month. It won't cool off this month, but nothing. Just we're gearing up for Christmas, man. I'm gearing up for Christmas and 2022 and getting out of her and doing some RC and building my Mayako, which I'm super excited about getting because I saw some pictures. My spies sent me some pictures. See, I have spies.
Have people gotten the cars yet?
No, but this month, well, probably near the end of the month. So it's,
Okay.
But some of the stuff that I
A
saw,
bit delayed.
Yeah, well, dude, they just delayed freaking Battlefield, the latest Battlefield, like for a month. For like everywhere.
Oh yeah, everything is delayed. But I thought people had them already.
No.
Okay, well.
But my spy shots that I've seen. I'm super excited about some of the things that I'm seeing, and I'm looking forward to building this car. And I think I'm gonna actually try and build it like with video. We'll see how it works. I've been geeking out
One-handed.
Yeah.
How do you even build a car with like one hand?
I know it might not work.
Be so hard.
Did you like my Manscaped commercial? I did it one-handed the other day.
I gotta check that out. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I missed it somehow.
And I've been just geeking out with my Hitec charger, playing with that, and just getting ready for Operation 115 as more parts come in. So, I got my batteries in, I got my props, I got the boat in. People can see that boat right back there. That
so what's your
light back
What's
there.
your top speed at the moment? How far?
No, I haven't
you
even
away
driven
from
this boat yet.
Oh, what about the other one?
I don't know. I haven't put it on the GPS
Oh,
yet.
okay.
It's not going to be as fast as this one. So, and the jet boat is not fast. It's more for like rapids and stuff like that. And I'm going to use it as a recovery boat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm actually excited to do some RC. Like yesterday, I packed up my car and was ready, and then so mad. Raw Regional Rep votes. Raw Regional, I think it's the odd Raw Regional elections are coming up soon in the fall. Go to rawracing.com. Check out what region you're in. See who the rep is. If there isn't a rep, If it's something you're interested in doing, maybe do it. We want to change Raw. Well, we change Raw from the bottom up. We get people in there from
We
these
should
regions.
have we should have like candidates that are what do you call it, supported by non-MRC. You know.
I was hoping to have organized all that with a group of people, but then the one guy that was doing that kind of just said, no, I can't do it now. So now I don't have anybody to do it with. But I'm just trying to encourage people to go out there and become Raw members, because what's going to happen here is the Raw Nationals are going to come around next year and everybody's going to forget what happened this year or how much we want to change Raw, and we're just going to pay our money anyway because we want to do the Nationals. But here's our chance to start some change, I would say.
We need to sort of get the people, like find out the people who are good and the people who think the right way about RC and not the old guard. Yeah. And then like endorse these people, because it's actually really important that like we just we actually vote the people in that actually want to change things, and not just vote for someone else that doesn't want to change things.
I agree.
So I think that's really important as well.
I agree. Invisible Speed course, dude. I showed you the video the other day. I'm super impressed with Beaker's. One thing about Beaker, man, and I'm not gonna fluff him anymore, but I have to give him credit. When he puts his mind to something, he gets it done. But he's been thrashing away at those videos, and he's still far behind. But he's it's looking really good, and I think like just that Link video that he shared was so in depth. I was like, wow, he's like, yeah, and the whole course is like this. So I think this is a course that's going to be good for anybody that's just getting into RC, or maybe just wants to learn more about RC. I think it's going to be good. I really do. And online courses aren't unusual. They're in all other industries and whatnot like that as well. So I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, and actually, like, I saw a lot of people complain about price and all that, but come on, like, for real. That information, like, to gather that much information, it takes a lot of fucking time. Like, JQ is never gonna make sort of the money out of this that he should.
He's never made money. That's the problem. That's the issue. He's never made money.
No, but like selling an shitty RTR makes you more money than doing this. So like way more. And like this what JQ is doing is like working way too much for, I mean, not that much content in like, well, in terms of hours, yes, it's a lot of content, but like if you were like to pay for per video, it would be quite a lot. But that information in those videos, it's like the work you have to do to get that. It's the time. It's like
time and knowledge
time,
that this guy's accumulating.
I think the way he said it is like 20 years of experience in like, or $300. It's like, or whatever the course is. I don't know if how much
I think it's like $400. It's like in installments or something like that.
Yeah. So like 20 years of hitting your head into the wall versus like paying a few $100.
These are the same people that have to have everything matching in their pits, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think in this case, like, I really think people, even for instance, like, I heard some people complaining about the $5 to live RC, and I'm kind of like, man, I pay that no problem. Like, you know what I mean? Every month.
5 is so little. And 5 is like, it's not a lot. I mean, okay, if RC does a shitty job, then 5 is too much. But as long as Live RC does a good job, I'm fine with 5. You know, like 5 is nothing.
Well, I think people should make money if they're gonna do something. If you don't make money, then you're not gonna do it anymore. We like this. We like to have things around. So we like to have, like, people's like, well, we can watch the videos, we could do this. I guarantee when people see this course, they'll see how more in depth this is than the videos. They'll be like, okay, I get it now. And will people be smart enough to say, okay, I probably need this course because I'm not doing so well. So I'm just saying, like, I just feel like sometimes
and it's not really only about doing well. It's also like having fun. It really sucks when your car is bad and you're out on the track and there's no one to copy a setup from. Mm-hmm. It really sucks. Even if you're just driving for fun, it's just like there's no enjoyment there, especially if you're driving for fun. And that's why, like, knowing how to set up your car is going to make your life a lot easier, and there's more interest to the hobby. It's not just go out on track, try to be fast, and then wonder why my car sucks. The hobby is now go out the track, try to be fast, and then come to the pits, think about why I wasn't fast or why I was so fast, and try to have solutions in the pits. The hobby sort of has a new depth to it. And it's not really only about doing good. It's also about having fun.
Yeah, I agree. The people that get it, they'll buy it, and once it gets word of mouth, and people say, "Wow, this is real," it's like the book. People pissed him in when he wrote the book and all that type of stuff, but look, it sold very well. And there's one thing people can say about Joseph, and they can complain about his political beliefs and all that stuff. When it comes to R.C. and the benefit of R.C. in the future, and what Joseph, trust me, he wants the best for everybody, not just for himself. So if you guys are interested, check it out. Invisiblespeed.net. I think the 20th, so 4 more days. You get it. If you pre-order it before then, you get the walkthrough with David Ronnefalk, Cole Ogden, Robert Battier, and Joseph, and one more. I'm missing somebody. It was
Ray Monday.
No. It was Ronnefalk, Cole, Battier, Joseph.
Oh, McBride.
McBride. Yeah, one more
McBride.
person. McBride.
You missed it last time as well. You did a podcast with Joseph last week. You missed it then. I watched it.
I know. I forgot it. I forgot it. So invisiblespeed.net, people, if you want to get that early walkthrough with those drivers and be able to talk to them and pick their brains for information, check it out. All right, Max. I think it's time to go on to some RC news. And the RC news is brought to you this week by TNR Fuels and Hitec RC. Here at the N.O.R.R.C., we are all about the glory, and that glory is nitro. TNR Fuels is the hottest nitro fuel on the market, and it's owned and operated by Chris Nelson and his family of racers. Chris is actually a racer, and his family go to him with the races. Very nice people. And, he's just a hardcore racer at heart. TNR Fuels is currently available throughout the USA, and they are looking for international to be shipping it out international. If you want any more information on the fuel, you can contact Chris directly through Facebook or email him at chris@tnrfuels.com. Find them on House of RC, or like I said, just contact them on Facebook. Check them out. I see a lot of people are switching over to this fuel and using it. So I will be using it when I get to America next year to do my racing and whatnot, so I can't wait. Also, big thank you to Hitec RC. Thank you to them for sending me that cool RDX2 Pro charger, which I'm really enjoying. Hitec RC is a leader in RC systems, delivering the highest performance and reliability, supported by a dedicated customer service personnel. The HSBC 9381TH servo boasts efficient brushless motors, titanium gears, low consumption, output, a aluminum metal case, and they also regenerate power back into your battery when you break. The RDX2 Pro charger can charge up to 2 4-cells. I had 2 6S batteries on there the other day. Powerful batteries made by SMC that they sent me for Operation 115. Charge it up, no problem. And I'm looking for the video. I probably erased it, but I was able to follow all of this on my phone like this. I don't know if you guys can see it, but basically that's a picture of what you get. Okay, you probably can't see it, but you can basically start and stop everything from your phone and control everything, see how much power is being put in there. I'm geeking out, loving it. Trust in Hitec, your server and charger headquarters. Visit hitecrcd.com, where to buy to find your nearest retailer. Hey, show these guys some support, man. They have been great supporters of the podcast. Thank you for the charger. You will not be upset with it. Max, we don't have much news, but we do have some things that have been happening that we have to talk about. And I think the first one, I think I'm getting feedback. Am I coming through your speakers, or am I coming through your headset?
I don't know. My mic could be, it's a bit weirdly positioned. I can reposition it.
Yeah, maybe it's picking up my voice through your headphones. Anywho, let's figure that out. All right, Max. The first question is, first thing I want to talk about. Alex Bernardzak beats Kyle McBride in Australia this year. Again, for the 4th time this year. it's 4-0.
Yeah.
I would say that this kid has McBride's number. But here's the thing. This is McBride's home track, too. He was there a lot. And he didn't, like, he beat him. This kid beat him in qualifying by like 10 seconds. One run. This is, okay, now,
Can we talk about the issue? Why this is happening?
You believe it's the car. I say he has to, I say, but he beat him when he had he also beat him when he was still running the Infinity, I believe, last year. Maybe not.
Maybe once, but I doubt it. This year he's beating him nonstop.
Well, I think, look, even though he's a pro racer, I still think he needs time on this chassis to get better. He's switched up chassis. He switched up tires. Two of your biggest components.
Yeah. Okay. I can give the tires. Tires can be a really big factor here, because the seismic tires have proven to work really well when it's oiled or when it's like polished surface.
Well,
just like Montpellier, track. Or this was oiled.
I believe so.
Okay, so in UK there's oil tracks and the seismic tires work really well. Everyone runs them. Or like I think even Elliot ran them, even though he's running T Pro now. And also in France there's polished tracks. I can't say from Spain or anywhere else.
I don't know if this track is polished, but I believe it's oiled.
Yeah, so if it's rough and oiled, then it's a very different story. Then I don't know if the seismic tires are good. But if it's polished, the seismic tires shouldn't be an issue, really. But if it's polished, the car is a little bit bigger of an issue, really, I'd say.
You and JQ both said the same thing. It's the car. Well, the Tekno does struggle on their smooth tracks now. They're good on they're good on those rough tracks. It's not. We're not saying anything that they haven't said themselves. But isn't it kind of flipped around? Because weren't they really, like Joseph says no, but I kind of thought they were a better smooth car, high grip track anyway. But their old car was better for smooth and high grip.
Well, from the old car, I don't think it was good anywhere, to be honest. Like, the old car, like, come on, Ryan Lutz's Bornhorst were in, like, the bottom of the quarters at Worlds. Like, that's...
Yeah, but that's one race. One race.
Yeah.
And they might have been running the new stuff. So we don't know.
Oh, actually, they might have run it. But anyway, like, really, the old car...
Look, okay, separate your hate of Tekno and Elias and all that stuff. Let's separate that, right? Let's not even talk about...
I mean, I was always fine with Elias.
Right, but you know, let's look at this.
With Tekno, I'm fine as well. The only issue I have is the car. Like, it's not a good car.
Why do you think, in your engineer brain, why do you think it's a struggle with that car? On smooth tracks, high grip tracks.
On smooth high grip tracks, it's pretty much almost only because of the rear pivot. There's a lot of other issues as well, or actually front and rear, because the front is really narrow as well. So with the long arms, the narrow pivots, when the car tries to roll, the chassis doesn't like want to roll, which means that you really, or if it rolls, it wants to roll really quickly. So the roll is really hard to control. And what happens then is when you go on higher grip tracks, the car doesn't roll, you go in the corner, and then it rolls really quickly. So it's really hard to make the car smooth and contain corner speed around the corners. And also, I'm not 100% sure what their shock situation is, but they used to run like three-hole pistons at some point, which makes the car just really dull and calm, which again loses your corner speed. It might be good on rough and bumpy tracks, but like loses a lot of speed on higher grip and smoother tracks. But really, well, the front end is a bit of a kind of hard to say. Is it an issue? Is it good, bad? But the really narrow arm pivots is probably one of the only issues, really.
Right. So you're saying that when it does roll, it just happens too fast for people to react to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you think like the arms are really narrow together and there's pushing from the outside like this, the car is like the roll is really quick. But it's like really wide like this, it's like that movement is much, slower. of the roll of the car.
that,
Like
I get
this,
that.
between my finger, the car is rolling.
It's just like the video
like
that
this.
JQ made the other day. It's no different from the video that he made the other day with the coin.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
So pretty much that's what's happening. Like the roll, it's resisting, and then it's too quick, and that's the issue in higher grip. In lower grip, you never get that quick motion, so it's resisting, and then it never like goes over. And also because they now have really long arms, what happens is over bumps, it's super easy to drive because the arm has so much leverage. So they get all the benefits on lower grip bumpy tracks like Silver State, not really like DNC, because DNC has longer sweeping corners. As we saw, it was really Mayfield, Ogden who was fast there, which is HB is sort of good car for sort of lower grip tracks, but that don't have, but still have like fast corners. So it has more corner speed than the Tekno. Then Mugen, with the really wide rear pivot, is really good on really smooth tracks generally, and associated as well, like Thornhill and tracks like that. But then at DNC, Mayfield is Mayfield and he wins. But like in other tracks, you can really see the difference in some cars. And the Tekno is good in tracks like Silver State and some really rough tracks that are slow speed and rather low grip.
Interesting. Well, it's going to be interesting to see. This has to be a blow for Kyle because, this is him. Like, what, 5, maybe 10 years ago? No, not that much. He's in about 24, 25. So this is him maybe 7 years ago.
Kyle made the world's main like when he was like 15 or 14 or something.
Well, Alex has so now I believe that Alex is super fast. Talking to the Australian guys.
Yeah, no doubt.
But what McBride has is
to beat a pro driver like Kyle, even on his bad day, it's a good thing to do, and like the way he's done it, it's really impressive.
No, I've seen Kyle show up and be fast too, man. Now, this is one person. I was telling the Australian guys, I was talking to Zach about it, and it's like, AE's got to get him to America. I was like, no, he's got to go. It's like AE's not going to pay for him to go to America. They might help once he gets out there, but he kind of has to make that trip on his own, and he kind of has to prove. Now he's proved himself in Australia. He needs to come out of Australia. Come to America. If there's one person that I would love to see go to DNC next year, it's this kid right here, because I want to see what he can do.
And I don't know how expensive it is to fly from Australia, but at least go to like Asian races, like big Asian races. Like even that, you get more exposure, you get more sort of that vibe that you're doing something.
Ben Sterling's back racing too, by the way. Ben Sterling's been to America. McBride's been to America. The Dexters have been to America. There's Zach Ryan and Ben Panic and John Spanik. All those guys have been. So it's not hard. People travel. It's just low. It's not that expensive.
But I mean, like you obviously have to go to America at some point. But like I'm talking, like, do you have to race there consistently? Like, do you have to go to DNC, to Silver State? No, like, but you need to sort of. Australia is so pushed away from rest of the RC world, really. Like someone like Ray Monday, like everyone in Australia knows him, and I've heard him the first time for like a few years ago, and this guy is apparently a legend in Australia or something in RC terms. So like Australia is so far pushed away from rest of RC. Even Asia is even much more present in Western RC like community.
I would agree there. We need to get the Bernard Zek to DNC. I love to see that. All right, Mayfield and Rivkin at Thunder Alley with the Drake, and it looks like they were testing some ProTech engines. They're probably testing more than that. This is just more proof that MX is done and that their time of paying drivers is over. Maybe they might continue on selling fuel. I don't know, but I doubt it. What do you think about this? You think Mayfield and Riv gonna run ProTech for A main?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I think Mayfield already runs he runs the ProTech servos, right? The A-main servos, whatever the brand they sell is. And then he runs batteries. He still runs Harboing Speedos, I think. But, I mean, he doesn't really have
A-main doesn't have a Speedo.
Yeah. Like, he doesn't really have any other sort of way to go apart from like completely different, like new. And why not go to A main then? Because they already have an engine, and he probably can get anything he wants for them.
Well, they
One
pay him
thing
though.
I'm still wondering. One thing I'm still wondering is like when Drake is so involved in both Rivkin and Mayfield's engine program, like why don't they all run the same engine? Like why doesn't Drake pursue to have Spencer and Mayfield at OS?
Because OS ain't paying out what MX was probably paying. Not saying they're gonna get MX money from them guys, but they need to get a paycheck, and they need.
Do you think A main would just pay these guys?
Yeah.
For just to run their engine, which is actually an OS. Like
A main's got money.
That's the thing. Well, they do, but like, do they really need it? Like, do they really need 2 team drivers to run their engine? People know it's an OS-based engine. They're gonna buy it if they're gonna buy it. So maybe what I'm seeing here, if they actually wanted to do something productive in terms of all of them, in terms of RC as a whole, I think what would and should happen is A main and OS work together, and they have a sort of American OS team where they run A main / OS engines, something like that. The only issue is I think Horizon is the distributor of OS, so that's already fucked that shit up.
Yeah, that dream's already messed up.
Yeah, but I mean, that would be the dream, really, because like I always hated when people run like, well, kind of like the what you call SMJ brand, you know? They have engines which are only OS, like just OS engines that Infinity buys from OS, and then I think they do something to them, but it's not like really that significant. It just like that, just more engines without really any brand. Kind of like Bullet. Like Bullet was just OS engines that had a different head on them, maybe a different case. But like,
yeah, but
I
it's
always
coming down
hate
to
this
the point
it's
now.
like,
it's like a big facade, like facade, whatever you want to say.
no, but like you can do it the correct way. You can do it like ELSI Tuned does it, where it's like actually his engine, he adds some value to it.
RB Ruin.
Like if you, yeah, but if you're just selling the same engine and no changes to it, like what's really the point? Like, why not? Because most likely you're making very little money as well. You're only doing it so that your team drivers can get an engine, which I really like. Why can't you just get the engines from OS? Like, I don't know.
Well, we ain't gonna.
I don't like it, and it's not gonna help any other engine manufacturer as well. If all, like, let's say if Reds just because they were originally Reds engines were Pico engines that they modified heavily, so it was pretty much a Reds engine, but Pico still manufactured the engine. Then when Reds came out with their completely own engine, which has nothing, well, I wouldn't say nothing to do with Pico, but it's basically their own engine. That was like 2018, 19, I think. So that's sort of the point where Reds could have looked at the market, said, okay, OS is slightly better engine, and then just bought engines from OS and sold them as that. But they made the decision to keep their own engine, build their own engine, and it's actually good for the hobby, even though I can say, and I will say, that Reds isn't as good of an engine as an OS is. But I would still rather have Reds making their own engines than just selling one like Bullet does sell OS.
Well, I was just about to touch on that because I got in this conversation with an old school guy this week about that, and it's like a big facade. Like, we all know everybody's running OS engines. The only thing that is different really now on the market that you might see somebody running is a Reds, just like serial type based. But going on it,
well, some people still run N.O.R.R.C.A based engines, but that's mostly in Europe.
Well,
that's
I
rare.
really wish N.O.R.R.C.A did not close because, number one,
I wish too.
I think that honest to goodness, like I mean this with all sincerity, I think that the P5, when you could buy it for $125 on Amazon at one point, or $150 was, I don't care when it was $250, it's probably still one of my favorite engines for any beginner, for a experienced racer, I think you can't go wrong with a P5. And at one point they're getting $125. But my point isn't about that.
The P5 is really good for like 15 minutes before it flames out of nowhere.
I never had that issue.
That was always the issue with
N.O.R.R.C.A. I never had that issue.
You never run that long mains.
I have. I've had P5s in my truggy. I've had P5s in my buggy, and they all ran. The only time I flamed out is when I jumped into some water and I hydrolocked it.
You know what it is? It's because they're so hot there. They're really good when it was hot. N.O.R.R.C.A was always the best when it was hot.
Probably, but my point being is that back in the day when you saw a lineup of drivers, you would see their different engine brands: RB, Serio, Pico. OS wasn't even really there. Like back in the day, OS wasn't even on. Like it was there, but it wasn't a top of the line engine.
Yeah. I mean, they were always good engines, but it wasn't like that big of a deal then.
Right, and you just won't see that again. So I kind of do. We kind of went off on a tangent on this subject, but I kind of do wish we would see N.O.R.R.C.'s and stuff like that come back, so people have more of a variety and there's more of a competition between these engine, and then we can get some innovation coming. Right now. Like I'm gonna say it, like a couple of guys I know who've brought up with the last OS engines, they're not happy with them. You know what I mean? They got to put different carburetors on them and all that type of stuff. And OS doesn't seem to be addressing
but they bought the wrong ones.
Well, maybe they did.
They bought the wrong ones. But like I've said this for such a long time, like there's really like at this point in 8-scale off-road, there's really one engine that works for all conditions and it's really good. It's the long stroke OS engine with the 21J or 22E carb. Most OS base engines are this way, but some aren't, and if they aren't, that's not good. You need the 21J or the 22. I'm pretty sure it's 22E carb. Those are the same carb that comes with the OS Type R, I believe nowadays, and that's the good carb. No other carb is usable from OS. Everything else is just trash. Throw it in the bin. Don't use it.
Hey, those are Max's words, not mine.
And the long stroke engine. OS, I think nowadays only has the long strokes, but the old, the short stroke or the cubic stroke engines, those are okay, but I mean, why? Like you can have the long stroke; those don't have that much mileage if you tune the engine correctly. Have a P4 plug if you feel you have too much power. Put a shim on top of it if you feel like you have too much power. Have a really smooth clutch. You have good mileage, smooth power range, and you can tune the engine well with the carb. And as I said, most OS-based engines are pretty good as well. It's not you don't have to have the OS. But I'd rather, like, to me, I wish there were only, like, OS, then there were, like, N.O.R.R.C.A and Reds. And then maybe, like, have a small things like ELSI tuned or, like, some, like, small manufacturers that make engines. Because that's again much more interesting when you're running an engine manufacturer. You're running an engine that has an actual manufacturer.
That has some soul to it. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what Nitro desperately needs? Nitro desperately needs a good nitro engine pipe combo, $250 to $300. That's what Nitro needs right now.
I mean, I kind of disagree.
No,
because
like
you buy
good engine.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you can't get a good engine for that price.
Yes, you can.
Like, if you buy it. No, but how long did it last?
Forever. I got one there in that truggy sitting right up there. I guarantee you.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's you. But like for actual racer who really like races, tries to be good. I raced with one engine for this whole year. Practice racing everything. Granted,
but
I didn't practice a lot.
Man. Not everybody can do that. You know what you're doing.
Yeah, because they buy the cheap engines. You buy right fuel. You buy the right engines, and your engine lasts forever.
All right.
That's how it works.
Enough about that. It'd be interesting to see where they go and how much money they get. Tebow and McLaren split ways. Well, here's something I did not know was that McLaren is actually Venom.
It is?
Yeah, I did not know that. It actually.
That's why they're. Okay. Now it makes so much more sense. So
That's
it's
what I'm
actually
told.
the Venom,
Yeah. So
and it's exactly the same brand, just rebranded.
yeah, the same people just
All the people are there, just
I
rebranding.
believe so. Still a small company though.
Did
But
did the what do you call it? What was the other one? The old one?
Venom?
Venom. Yeah. Did that go bankrupt?
No idea what happened with that. Maybe they just decided to go a different. Maybe Venom was too synonymous with bashing, and they wanted to go to
Oh,
more of a
okay.
racing type of platform. So such was born McLaren Racing. But I did talk to Tebow about this because he's actually going to come on with us next week on our live after Southern Nats, like as a co-host, and he just said, "Yeah, we just had like it did not end well. I guess they had a disagreement about something, and I think it was just a mutual
So
agreement."
is it about? I heard or read on Facebook that they wanted T-Bot to run drag racing. Was it about
No,
that?
I don't think it's about that. He did drag racing and he enjoyed it. He's done it.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
I think it was more. I think they just had words because I think Tebow. Like Tebow still has that hunger to win, and I think he must have said something like, "Hey, it might be equipment based. I don't know. Maybe we'll ask him next week when we talk to him." But basically, it sounds like they might have had a disagreement about equipment. They gotten some words were exchanged, and basically they just split ways. So, which is kind of rough for Tebow because that's also like MX is kind of, even though he's got the engines and he's going to sell those, with MX kind of not being sure what the future holds for MX and definitely not paying racers. And for Tebow, that's two salaries that's gone.
Yeah, but to be honest with Tebow is, if he wants to have a paycheck, he can. Like he can go to
I think he'll
some
get
lower level engine manufacturers and ask for a lot of money, and they will pay a lot of money.
He wants to
but
win,
the thing is, like, if he's exactly, that's the issue. Like, and then when you want to win, it doesn't really matter if you make 3,000 or 4,000 a month. Really, like, well, I don't know American salaries, taxes, whatever. But like, let's say if it's sort of a slight difference, a few $100 a month for winning versus, and also like you have to count in, if he actually wins races, he must get prize money as well from the,
But here's the thing. We always talk about these drivers good for paychecks and this and that and all that stuff. But we now think about when you're a hired racer like this, like that, your contract could be over and you could be out of money. You know what I mean? No warning whatsoever.
Yeah, I always wonder how that happens. Because I think, I mean, obviously, if the contract says like,
but they'll get you in a breach of contract somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Somehow, some
but I
way
mean,
they'll get you on
it's
that.
a bit shitty. Always when a contract is stopped midway through, it's always a bit shitty. And I believe, I kind of have the feeling that McLaren wanted sort of Tebow to bring it out more, sort of like, because it came out with like a huge bang, Tebow doing good at I think the Reed race or whatever, and then like after that they feel like, oh, people need to buy it. They've been pushing it a lot in Europe, and then there hasn't been that much sales. I don't feel, or I haven't seen.
Well, I thought it was growing. I saw it in the e-buggy world, more people using it and stuff like that.
Okay, but still, like, I sort of feel that maybe McLaren doesn't have the results they wanted. But then again, if other drivers are still keeping on with McLaren, then most likely just a disagreement. Tebow said something is shit and they got mad. Probably
what happened. But the pressure to win is on Tebow right now because he's won Truggy, he's won some e-buggy, but he wants that nitro buggy. And the pressure is on. And that's a hard, see, if R.C. was bigger, Tebow could really be thinking like, all right, I'm going to race to I'm 40 and then I could get a cushy job as a commentator or something. If R.C. was a bigger sport like football, I'm not saying, but like he can always get a job in the industry making decent money. To do that is really hard. Like, you know what I mean? In R.C. You can transition, but I
wonder. I think most people go have a real job afterwards.
Yes, they do.
What is Pavidis doing? He's doing a real job, right?
Which Mark Pavidis?
Mark Pavidis.
Yeah, he actually well, this was actually a pretty fun job. Outfit this. I don't know if it's still doing that, but there's camper vans, like like the transit vans, making them.
Oh, okay.
Tricking them
Yeah,
out.
but Degani has a real job. I think Degani always had a real job.
Always had a
though.
real job. He was a clock. It's a clock
Yeah.
and watch fixer.
Clocksmith.
Yeah, clocksmith.
And then watchsmith rather.
Like Tanner Danny is into real estate. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, but Tanner Danny is like, he's still like, because it's a bit different to be, because like Neil Craig, he's never been a full-time pro.
He's always had a job.
But he's still always made money from R.C. So he's a bit different. And then
I don't know. If this
in
was
Europe, really what happens is when people quit, they have an R.C. hobby shop. Most of the time, that's what happens.
But that's even. It's just like, imagine if this was bigger, like Tebow, world champion. If this was bigger, then this podcast would make more money too. But everything would make more money. But if this was bigger, then Tebow, he's good. He's good at social media, all that type of stuff. He understands. Like if racing was bigger, then he could be a commentator, like, you know what I mean, or something like that. But we just don't have that. You know what I mean?
Well, one thing people can do is sort of what like Greg Drescher did, which is just become a team manager. If you're like, I don't know what his title is nowadays, but sort of like a team manager. So like that's Tebow most likely could become just like a Tekno social media manager or whatever and make decent money.
We shall see. We still got a good bit of racing left in him. So we're talking. He's got a lot of racing left in him. All right. I see Robert Battier, Mood 36, Mugen hubs. Did you see this? He's made some two-piece hubs.
Yeah, those were actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought so too. They caught my attention. Let's see if I can bring it up here, and we can have a look at it. I like the two-piece thing. Let's talk about that real quick. The two-piece aspect of it, because I have never really operated with hubs like this before. So you as a racer, or maybe I don't have it. Okay. Let's see. Arm tab window. Here we go. So this can have outboard and inboard tow. Like the JQ kind of has. But this, what's this for, Max? Is this to like just if you break it, you can replace it, or maybe put something there with?
Oh no, you can put different ones on, so that way you can have multiple link positions. You can tune it by sort of small increments, have half also, whatever. That's why you have it. Now I kind of like it that it's only one of those. I always sort of shrug when it's, or what do you call it? I don't really like when you use two of those, because that's just like, it holds on with one. So why would you have link between the plates when you can just have one plate and attach the link there? So I kind of like that design. Otherwise, just a very basic hub.
Well,
aluminum hub.
Is the Mugen car? Can you do outboard tow adjustments on that now?
Probably not, but I sort of don't like the outboard tow adjustments, especially if you have some tow inboard. If you have, let's say, if you had it so that you had 0 on inboard and then more and some towing on outboard, that could be a bit more fun. But yeah, I don't know.
All right.
Not a huge fan of the outboard towing.
Well, see, this is Robert thinking of the future, getting that Mood. That's his brand, Mood 36. Getting parts out for people.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Last thing. 5150. Corey Drakenberg dropped the Icebreaker video, which he filmed back in 2019. It's so weird seeing this because now everybody's different. It's weird seeing this period because you can see obviously Proline used to pay him to do these videos. I think it's like $8,000 per video or whatever. And obviously this was filmed before Horizon took over Proline. So you can see that the film is geared to pretty much mostly Proline drivers, as it usually is. I mean, he does throw in like Tyler Hooks. Drake's fat in this one. He's not skinny as he is now. Brandon Rhodes, all young. He's not got a beard. Not Brandon Rhodes. Brandon Rose, sorry. Mark Santamaria's in it. This has been on the Turn podcast, so still popular. He hadn't really become like the vlogger that he's on now. But it took so long for this to come out, and it's kind of just lost its luster. And it was pretty, like, he threw some shade. Like, one thing, this guy has always thrown some shade at somebody. You know what I mean? He
Oh,
doesn't
always.
always.
I think he hates Mayfield as well.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't like. Remember when he threw Mayfield under the bus at the in the hot rod hobby one? He's like, oh yeah, make sure you get that
Yeah.
that pro line check, you know, and all that type of stuff. But he kind of like, I know there was something that happened between him and probably Alex Morelli and the owners of Indy. Well, Alex doesn't work at Indy anymore. It just kind of ended weird. Like, oh yeah, Indy hasn't opened up since they got rid of. I just like, wow. It just looked. It's not the best 5150 movie that they've made, and I just thought it was kind of weird. Like they spent 2 minutes talking about PNB and DNC at one point. Like he was almost advertising. Like, hey, I can do this for your tracks. I mean, don't get me wrong. This guy does great work. Great, his videos are awesome.
Yeah.
But you know, it got to the point like. I'm going to say it where it just became about certain drivers and not the actual race sometimes. Like, you know what I mean?
I really hated that.
And
you know the early ones, the re-race one where like Tesla was still with HB and like there was some other really good ones. Roar Nationals 2014, that was really good one. That was qualifying to the Worlds, and that like those old ones, they were really good. They were following obviously Ty and Drake and the Pro Line guys much more than anyone else, but it wasn't as much sort of in your face. And like since then, I'd say like hard to say, but like for a long time already.
yeah, then it was about really Ty at one point. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of lost interest when I saw the first two ones where he was just like, it was only about Ty or it was only about some random pro line racer.
Right. So with this one, it was just kind of. I mean, it's great for the Texas guys, and I know they've been waiting for this and all that stuff, and that's cool. And it highlights an iconic race that they have every year and all that type of stuff, where they haven't had it since this one. But it just felt weird watching this. I watched it,
and don't get me wrong. I rather have these than don't. And like for a certain audience, these are actually pretty good because they don't have that much of an idea of the RC industry, so they can catch on to this one part of the industry, which is pro line drivers and that sort of.
But it wasn't pro line because it's not affiliated with pro line, so he couldn't say pro line in this one. But you can see obviously when he filmed it, it was a lot to do with the pro line guys. So he kind of had to make, he kind of had to make this, because Mark's on the real, he runs pro line. Bornhorst was a big feature. Tekno was a big feature. He did feature Tebow a lot on this and all that stuff because he had just kind of started with Tekno. So it was just a little bit different. And then like he spent like a minute and a half talking about DNC and PNB. And I'm like, the PNB is what I couldn't get. He's like, it's the same format. I was like, what 3 day? He connected 3 day PNB with 3 days icebreaker. And I'm like, how does that even make a connection to me? Like, I just didn't get that part of it. Like, I didn't get that part of the film. But man, it's just weird. This guy is really awesome at what he does, and that's making these great movies and stuff. Like he's done some good stuff. But I just like definitely. Because that whole happy little Fiesta's kind of broken up, Horizon broke that all up. They bought Proline. Yeah. Ty had to leave. Drake had to leave. He didn't get any money. Rackenberg was $8,000 per video to do. So it's like that whole happy Fiesta's gone and that whole vibe's gone, if you ask me. But it kind of did get kind of. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's good for the Texas guys. I know they wanted
I'd like to see Live RC fund his videos. I'd like to see how that would turn out.
I actually thought that's what he was kind of trying to do. Like, it's like with the PNB and DNC highlights, like, hey, look what I can do for your race. But to be honest, I just don't know. Maybe he has to work with Live RC. I don't know. Like, we'll work with them.
I think the best case scenario is have somehow Live RC fund it. Let's say with Joey at DNC or with Race Time at PNB, but have somehow independent funding where you don't really have to follow. You're actually doing there something. I don't know if he's any good at it or if he's just good at editing and voiceovers. But like if he has some artistic view
Oh, it just
of
takes so
like
long.
how to present an RC race, it's like, well, I mean, come on.
It takes a long
Yes,
time.
it takes long, but for $8,000, that's 2 months' salary pretty much for a regular person. You definitely get a video done in 2 months.
I don't know what the future holds for Corey Drakenberg and 5150. With his skills, I'm sure he can do many other things besides RC. I'm sure he does other things besides RC. His videos are great. I'm not gonna lie and sit here. I didn't like the Worlds one, man. It was mostly about Ty. I was like, well, other people, ran the race too. I just when it started getting all about Ty, and that's fine because I get it. He likes Ty, and that's his people's Canadian, all that stuff. But I just like to know what happened at the race. But I would say that this was on my rating. Like I don't know if I'll watch this again. You know what I mean? It was just like it probably could have been cool, and it geared up to be about the pro line guys. And I just like didn't understand why he threw in PMB and DNC. Maybe if you guys know, if you'll watch it, maybe you have opinions on that too. Let me know. But I hope he doesn't.
I think it's for a little bit different audience, really.
I think it's great. I think it's great also for maybe not. I don't know if it's great for introducing people to RC too. I don't. It's like because you kind of have to.
I thought you were gonna say. I don't think. I thought you were gonna say. I don't know if it's great for anything.
No. I don't think it's.
But you didn't go that far yet.
No. I don't know if it's great for getting because you kind of have to be into RC to know who these people are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think he does a rather good job at that.
Oh,
I think he does really good at presenting Ty and whoever pro line guy was at the race. But like the thing that for us, for people who know these guys already, and for people who know these are only pro line guys, it's a bit annoying.
Yes,
but if it's someone who has no idea, he actually does a pretty okay job. I wouldn't say a good job, but an okay job, like that way. But the videos are really nice to look at, and like the editing, the voiceovers, all that's really good. I enjoy that one.
I can admire and appreciate the work and effort that he put in to do that.
Yeah,
and he's had
sure.
He's had some good videos and stuff. I kind of hope he doesn't go anywhere, but I hope he kind of refocuses and maybe not. It kind of being more about the actual race than one person. I get it. Sometimes to make a story, you have to be one person. We'll see. Let me know what you guys think.
To be honest, like how much criticism did the F1 Drive to Survive get? Like
how much criticism did Driven get from RCGP from everybody? You know what I mean?
I'd say not that much. I think Driven was.
Oh, I listened to like the guys who own the Hobbyplex up in Omaha bashed the shit out of it. Like and one guy watched it while he was driving. I was like, you didn't even watch it, So some people did bash it, but there's also, RC politics is funny.
Well, thing. I don't know. The third one was a different style, but at least the first two ones for me were like really freaking good. Yeah. The third one, I'd say that's also directed more to outsiders, a bit more than the first two ones were. But I don't know. I think the Drivens has been pretty damn good.
Yeah, but it's received some criticism too. So it's all good, man. I can't do what this guy does. So
I mean, come on, people in American people criticize where they were being sent money.
It's not just
Americans said, "I don't want the money I'm being sent by the government. I don't want it." Like, come on. If you can criticize that, you're gonna criticize anything.
Hey,
that's why I don't trust Americans.
Oh gosh. Well, you don't trust anybody.
That was obviously a joke.
You don't trust anybody because I've seen Europeans being some of the most critical people in the world too.
Oh yeah,
I just
especially
think
Southern Europeans.
Oh, see, look where he goes. There's never finished people. It's never finished people. Look, I'm not bashing Corey Drakenberg or 5150. I think what he's done is great. I just think this was like, you know what I mean? Yeah, because there's so much drama and baggage attached to this video too.
I haven't watched any of his stuff in like 2 to 3 years, so don't really know.
It also shows in his YouTube.
The last ones I watched weren't really good, and I watched many of the last ones.
Well, it shows in his YouTube comments because his views are on too. So yeah.
Yeah, but if you upload once a year, that's gonna happen. Obviously, like come on.
All right. Well, real quick before we get out of here, upcoming events. We have the Southern Nationals this weekend coming up starting tomorrow, I believe. Today, people are making their way there, or people were there already. Probably one of the best indoor venues you could ever go to. Good luck to everybody doing that. We have Masters of Dirt next weekend at Brent. He just released a video. That's a fun 10-scale race to go to. U.S. Open at Sun City R.C. Raceway, October 8th and 12th. Put that on your calendars, people. You can win some money. Go check that out. Blue Ridge Nationals at the October 29th to 31st. And then AMS, November 11th to 14th. So lots of racing still to go in this year, and it's good to see. Max, it is time to go on to the Beach RC Bench Racing Q&A. Are you ready?
Definitely.
BeachRC.com, the racers' one-stop online hobby shop. Choose from all the popular brands and variety in stock with super fast shipping and great customer service. BeachRC.com still has the local hobby shop feel with all the benefits of the internet. BeachRC.com is the exclusive distributor for Ultimate Racing, JQ Racing, Pro Circuit Racing Tires, Nitro Lux Fuels, and Assault RC Performance products. So fill up your cart and check out at BeachRC.com today.
Wow, Max, wake up. And thank you to Beach RC for their support of the podcast. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you to Brent, Lucas, and all the Beach RC crew. A brick and mortar shop doing things big, put a lot of money back into RC. We have an affiliate link. If you guys can use that, it helps this podcast, helps us. Thank you to Beach RC. Go check them out at www.beachrc.com or find our affiliate link in the written description. All right, Max. So we don't actually have too many questions, but I'm going to start out with your favorite Instagram stalker who loves you to death and always has something to say to you.
My stalker.
Yes. This guy loves you.
Oh, God.
HyperFox21. Can you please tell Weekend Warriors to stop asking for pro setups? Midwest racers asking Cali Kings for their setup at JBL. It's like asking Max what razor he uses.
Who is this guy?
I don't know.
Winterfox?
He's on Instagram. HyperFox 2.1.
Okay. Hyperfox.
Like FUXX.
Okay. Well, there's two sides to this. There's the pros most of the time have a pretty okay setup on their cars, but they also do things to make the car really fast. So let's say oftentimes my car is really good to drive and really easy to drive. Then I go 1 degree down on tow. The car is not that easy to drive, but I gain a lot of speed. Now, let's say I was not as good of a driver as I am. I was a beginner or just a guy who runs for fun. For me, when I go 1 degree down on that toe, the rear end becomes too slippery for now me being not a good driver, or let's put it, just a hobby driver. For a hobby driver, when you go 1 degree down on toe, now the car is too difficult to drive and you actually start to lose speed because you make more mistakes. So oftentimes I post a setup or someone asks me for a setup, I say this setup and increase 1 degree of toe. Almost every time I do that because I know from experience from trying to set up that when I have 3 degrees of toe in the rear, the car is really easy to drive. For me, it doesn't have enough steering and it has a bit too much rear grip to keep the corner speed up that I can keep on the track. But if I drive slower, the car is really easy to drive. And for a driver that isn't as skilled as me or isn't as fast as me, having 3 degrees of toe in is easy to drive and probably faster for them. For me, the 2 degrees of toe in can be faster. Sometimes even for me, it isn't. But a lot of times it is faster, and that's why I run it. And that's the issue really is you can run pro driver setups, but you need to be aware of where they cut the corner of drivability to gain or made the compromise of drivability to gain speed. So you need to know if they're running, let's say, really thick rear spring or really thick rear roll bar to gain corner speed. instead of drivability, or if they have sort of like I said, towing in the rear, they could have the rear diff a bit stiffer. That could be one. Center differential stiffer. That could be one. In the front end, you could do a lot. You can do softer front end, stiffer front end. You can do more kick up, less kick up. Those type of things could work either way, depending on the rest of the setup. So really, you can, and you probably should look at pro driver setups, but you should, and you really need to find out what are the things that they made the car faster and made it a bit harder to drive in the process. Because most likely for just a regular Joe at the track, or even guys running expert but not pro, most likely the easier setup is better for them. For some drivers,
it depends on track too.
But
like he mentioned JBRL.
yeah, well,
so we're going to talk about Proline.
Oh, okay.
Proline track is blown out. I was talking to the Spin Radical one, Walker Spin Rad, who I showed just like, dude, out-qualified Cav. Like, you know what I mean? And then came second. And he's just like, I was just loose and blown out like motocross. And I just, you know, he's gotten really fast in the last couple years he's been racing. And it's like, I just, you know, it just was good. Like, that's also what we got to look at. Like, the tracks in California are completely different from what Midwest guys like. It's like an East Coast guy asking for a California setup, and unless you're like at N.O.R.R.C.A or somewhere like that, it's just completely different.
I definitely agree to an extent, but I sort of disagree because, well, okay, I agree in the terms of pro drivers that are now running, like drivers that, like, let's say Mayfield or Rivkin or drivers like that, who really run, to me, a bit weird setups at times. Not specifically these two, but for example, these two. So, in contrary to some other drivers who run just the basic setup all the time. Let's say Ongaro, he runs always the same setup, but he struggles at certain tracks. But to copy a pro driver setup for a specific track who does this, sort of switches his setup around, is really hard to do correctly. And unless you're running it at exactly that same track. But for me, I ran the same setup in all the races this year. And for one track that was really, really bumpy, really, really high grip, very different to all of the rest of the tracks, I only made two minor changes to the setup. So when you sort of know your own setup, and when you sort of, you know how it works, you drive like the car wants to be driven, you talk the same language as the car, then you don't really need to change the setup much at all. So let's say you're going to a track that's relatively, let's say, medium grip to low grip and not dusty, sort of not crazy dusty, but like normal, like racing line with a slight bit of dust. If you like my setup at some other track that was like even close to being similar to that track, it most likely will work you on that track as well, the other one. So like that you can do, and that you probably should do. But always you should look at the setups, but should you run them or should you try to be fast with them? It's a bit more difficult. And actually you can do more harm copying a setup if you don't know what you're doing. So I would definitely say ask a local guy first rather than a pro. But if you know sort of what the pro is doing, or he's saying what he's doing, and he's recommending you something, probably you should listen to him.
That was a long answer, Max. That was a very long answer.
Yeah.
Hyperfox, see what you do to Max? You make him say long answers. See? That was like super science.
Yeah, but actually this is a really big thing in RC. A lot of people suffer from copying setups and wondering why they suck.
I agree. Next question from Instagram comes from AE Fanboy, and it's about Jared Tebow. And he goes, where's Tebow headed? I don't know. Do you think it's a lack of 10 scale and drag racing that got him off the McLaren team? I do not. I think that it's been a long time that he doesn't have a 10 scale chassis sponsor. So that's not a big deal. I think that the people that race drag cars don't even really know who Jared Tebow is that much. You know what I mean? They may know he's a world champion in off-road, but they don't really. It doesn't matter. His prowess in off-road doesn't matter in what you call it. So, yeah, all good. I think he's gonna get. I don't know where he goes. Maybe he goes hobby being Teepin. I don't know. Tekin. Who knows? All right. Next question. This is actually another setup question, Max, and we're not gonna go super deep, but this comes from my buddy Tony Chandler. What's up, Tony? What's up, Joe? His son Joe. Down there racing. He goes, for 8-scale off-road, out of all the adjustments that can be made before a race, what are two of the most important adjustments that are recommended and why?
Before like your heat or before like
I think it's saying before a race, but it depends on the race. But let's say what's two basic adjustments you make?
Well,
I would say first.
Why would I make it?
Obviously,
I don't
it's
really
tires.
get the question.
So this is what he wants to know.
Oh, okay. Oh, when you go to a new track.
Yeah.
When you go to a new track at a okay. So I accidentally put my flashlight on my phone.
I do that all the time.
So okay. So you go to a new track, you go to a race at the new track. Tires is number one. Number one is tires, obviously. Number two, there really isn't one setup change you have. Well, okay, for me, so I put it this way. One is tires. That's just, you need to find the right tires. After that, you can focus on everything else. But for me, now that in Finland we don't have open tires, we have controlled tires. I always go to the track. If my rear end feels like it's sticking to bumps, I raise the rear link. If it feels like it doesn't have enough grip, I'll lower the rear link.
So all right, so that's just two changes. So you got tires. Now you found the tires that you want.
Yeah.
All right, let's eliminate tires. Let's eliminate tires because that's basic. We know that.
Yeah.
Two changes you're gonna make right away. Like two changes that's gonna change your car right away.
For me, that's the rear link and the rear springs, thicker or thinner springs. Those are the two changes I make probably at this point.
Once you have the great tire.
Yeah.
Okay. But
to be honest, with the JQ, when it was JQ, it was springs as well. That was one. But it was also rear towing, I think, most of the time. Rear anti-squat, probably more. Rear anti-squat and springs. That was the one I always changed with the JQ. So it's not like every car has the same thing. It's really car dependent. So you need to find the things that are really at the edge. So let's say the rear link, for some grip levels, you find that the rear link is really at the edge of being too low. The car starts to flip over, you have the jack in effect. And then you raise. Then when you have that effect again on another track, you can raise it. So you should always find out these things that change the car's handling in a very specific way that is often an issue. Let's say rear end sticks to bumps. That's very often an issue when you go to a higher grip track that has small bumps. Or let's say you don't have enough rear grip or you have too much rear grip compared to front end. Those are the issues that you most likely will have at the new track. And that's why rear springs are really good and the rear upper link for me. But with the JQ, it was anti-squat and springs completely, like front and rear springs both.
Also, I would add to that ambient temperature. Depends what temperature it is, what shock oils you run. To an extent.
Yeah, you should always prepare for a race. So let's say it's going to be hot or cold, have the right oils.
It's hard to say what two adjustments you should make because like you said, every car is different, every track's different.
Yeah.
So it's like obviously I'm going to say
tires.
If you don't have the
I
tires,
think the tires is just like, like that's number one. Like obviously you can tune your car after first practice, and you should, because you already can feel what the issue in the car is, but you should always test the tires as well if it's open tires. But yeah, I think from this question, I think the takeaway is that you should know what the two things are for you. So already in practice or previous races, memorize what setup changes are really common that you make, and that always make your car better or worse very clearly and in a specific way. Let's say rear grip or sort of car roll or whatever it is. So find those, and then every time you go to the track, you immediately know what to do when you have an issue. That way, you only have to make two minor changes to a car to get it to work, like I said, on a very different track.
Cool. Thank you, Tony. It's hard. I know people want a straight answer.
These questions today have been like so, I wouldn't say vague, but like you could answer in so many different ways.
You did. I don't want you to go on a 20-minute tangent on that one. And don't go on a 10-minute tangent on this one. But on the next private message, he goes, "Are the pros running modified engines, or are we running the same stuff? They can run." He wants to know basically, how can they run? He wants to know how can they run 10-minute runs and nobody else seems to be able to do it. How come some others can run 10 minutes while others can't? What does it take to run 10 minutes? You're the wrong person to ask this, because you cannot. You have bad fuel mileage.
Oh well, I mean, it was weird actually. I think the biggest issue has been the way I tuned my engines in the past, and that must have been because I always ran different fuels. I ran Sidewinder at one point, Nitrolux at one point. So now I've sort of everything in my engine program is set up and the way I want it to be, and it works perfectly. So I think now, because this year at every race, I had one of the best mileage. At the last race, I ran 7:30 when others ran like 6 minutes. So I had okay mileage from now on. But I can't really say
it's a combination
any
of many
specific
things,
thing.
man. You have to have your
it
engine
is.
tune right, your fuel right, your
Yeah.
car needs to be like it's not just one thing. It's so many. But you know what it comes down to at the end of the day? Using this and this. Wow. Left-handed. I can't hold it up.
Yeah.
You got to adjust. Because I
Yeah,
watched Mayfield
so-
adjust his fuel strategy mid-race at the Nationals.
Yeah.
And he only did that through his throttle finger. So it's less of this, more of this, more of that.
And actually, that as well, if you drive
throttle
a
finger,
lot,
I'm talking about
because
people.
yeah, but like, because even that, like, obviously number one is engine tune. If you are running 10 minute like with a tank, the engine is always lean. There's no way you're running 10 minutes with the engine rich, and that's number one. So anyone can do 10 minutes pretty easily if you just lean on the engine and then just learn how to drive with it.
How about a special mix of fuel to make you go longer? That could work too.
That has a huge effect. Fuels can have like half a minute difference in tank length, and there's a lot of like small things that can affect it. But in reality, like most of these like Tebow and Drake are probably the only pros that do crazy long tanks
Constantly.
Yeah. Every other guy
Drake.
is like,
Every other guy ain't doing 10 minutes.
yeah, and the way Drake does it is just he leans on the engine and drives differently. That's, I think, all he does.
Me too.
He could have some little things like changing the Venturi or changing fuel, but I'm pretty sure what he does, he leans on the engine and just drives differently. And really, like, also with the throttle finger, it doesn't matter if you're like always full throttle, really, but it matters like how you do it. So let's say you let the car slide a lot, and then you go on power, or you let the car sort of the tires just roll around doing nothing. You use a lot more fuel there, even though if you're really like try to be smooth or don't use full throttle, you kind of have to know where to use the throttle you have and always use it to go forwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. because you can also do it so that you drive in the mid range of the engine for the whole time, which makes the engine usually a bit rich. So you can make the engine a bit rich by driving that way, which also uses more fuel. So I'd say just like try to use the throttle in a way that always puts the car forwards, doesn't direct it into a new direction, but always pulls it forward. So steer the car in the right direction and then accelerate. Yeah. I think that's
you want to be going forward. You want to be momentum. You don't want to be spinning wheels. You want to be going forward every time. Now to do that, it might not be full throttle. It might be like feathering till you get to full throttle. You know what I mean? It's lots of things.
Yeah.
All right. Couple more questions there. R.C. Kevin, he'll be joining me next week to host a live. He wants to know how much of setup info transfers from 8-scale transfers over to 2-wheel drive buggies.
Yeah, I saw this question on Facebook, and to be honest, like setup is setup. Everything transfers to everything. Let's say like someone says, yeah, you need to use thicker springs because thicker springs are good. Like, yeah, obviously that doesn't transfer to 10 scale. But like generally, if you watch JQ's videos or my videos, for example, everything I say is perfectly, it's pretty much exactly the same 10 scale. There's pretty much no difference. Some things, let's say, in tool drive, it's a bit different with differentials. It's a bit different with weight bias and stuff like that. But that's just because the sort of starting situation is very different. But in general, if you know your starting situation and then apply what you know from 8 scale to 10 scale, it works perfectly fine. So there really is no difference, but the hard part is knowing your starting situation. So knowing, let's say, the weight bias of the car, knowing your roll center of the car, knowing the height of the center of gravity and all that, and then it translates. And that's often why people say that, yeah, I can't tune 10 scale, is because they never figure out the 10 scale things. And to be honest, I really never have of the cars I run at the one because I barely run them at races. I just practice with them, keep in touch, and run a club race here and there. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You just need to know where you're starting from, then everything applies.
Okay. Nathan Genda, if Max can make one major improvement to a car design, what would it be and why?
Which car or all the cars?
Any car. Let's say your associated car. Or cars, period.
Associated car.
Let's say cars, period. Something that cars can benefit.
One improvement. Not nitro only. So every car.
Yeah, let's just say cars. Racing cars. 8 scale.
It's really hard to say. I'd put diff height adjustment up there. And in a very easy way.
Why?
Like, because it matters a lot more than people think. That's probably
Axle
one
plunge?
of the very easy one. Yeah, if you want to use that word, but
plunge.
yeah. Diff height adjustment probably. That's probably the single biggest one. There are a lot of other things, but
you know what
that's
I'd make?
probably the biggest one.
I'd make an e-buggy with quick release battery technology.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. Yeah, that's what I talked about in one of my videos. I just rewatched it today.
Or I would I know this is going to make it more spendy for people, but it would be so cool. Quick release 8 scale wheels. So you have to do mandatory tire changes.
Yeah, you don't really need that for anything, but that would be really cool. Yeah. I would be
fun for that. As for innovation wise, I don't know what I would want in a new car. I wouldn't know till I saw it. You know what I mean? I'll tell you what I want. A car that I can just easily get work on to everything. Like radio tray can be out in a few minutes. That engine can be out. Everything, like you can strip your car and put it back together fast. Easy to work on. I think that's what we're going to figure out is cars are going to just get easier to work on as we get that's where the innovations.
Yeah.
Come.
Well, one major thing is make the damn cars lighter. Why are these cars so heavy? We're like 300 grams off the
where you can put weight
limit.
on it. You still have a weight limit, but you can use that weight as a tuning option better. That'd be great.
Yeah, but like right now, most cars are like 3,400 to 500. Some cars even heavier than that, except for Kyosho, which is like 3,200. And that's like 300 grams too heavy because the limit is 3,200. 3,200. How is that so hard to say? And we're at like 3.5 kilos.
I don't know. Where would you lose that weight to?
You don't know them. Well, everywhere. Arms, diff boxes, engine mounts, center diff mount.
Yeah, when you start shedding weight, you start shedding. Let's see where you start shedding. Not quality.
Yeah, but Kyosho is at 3,250 without any titanium screws, without any aluminum stuff, like to making it lighter.
I don't know. Maybe that is the next. Make it lighter, and then maybe make a car that's 25.
Kyosho did it like 10 years ago, so it's not like next thing.
Make a car that's 2,500
other brands
grams,
should catch up.
and then you can make a car that's 3,000 grams, and you have 200 grams to play with.
I think the optimum would be make a car as light as you can and then just add weight.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Make it like 3,100 and then just add 100 grams wherever you need it.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way too. All right. Last question comes from my buddy Benjamin James, and he goes, do you think R.C. would benefit from partnerships with full-scale series or organizations like Monster Jam, AMA, Supercross, Motocross, Nitro Circus, IMSA, NASCAR, and others who have setups at their events? Of course I do. I would just not, I don't want to set up.
Yes. Yeah.
We don't need a setup. We need to do what RCGP was thinking of doing, which was actually putting an actual race on, like a proper race on.
Yeah.
But I would not have a race with 3,000 entries. I would just have like a limited entry.
Yeah, that was the issue. Like,
keep people excited.
When RCGP
all that stuff
wanted to do it, it would have always had to be that there were motocross, and then or any other sport really, like motocross, rally, whatever. There was, for example, motocross, and then RC track would be built like close to it or in the paddock area, and then like you would have only the pros there because obviously it's really hard to have an open race.
That's all you need. But people are going to get butthurt about not being able to race at that race.
Exactly. And also the big issue is the fact that RCGP doesn't make any money from like the entries. So all the money they need to make through sponsorship or and they also probably would have to pay to be at the motocross race.
Exactly.
So you still have to pay for that.
And you have to do it right. You can't do it wrong. You know what I mean?
Oh, exactly. And the thing is like the motocross race or whatever race, MotoGP race, Formula 1 race, they can screw the RC race off by just putting it in a really bad place where people don't see it. So it's like a lot of money wasted for nothing. So it's a huge risk, and it's really hard to, because a lot of these times, like for example, like motocross race organizers are like really like happy with you in the beginning, like, hey, yeah, of course we're gonna do this and blah blah blah, and then it gets harder and harder and it all just falls apart.
Like anything.
And then it's like they try to take everything they can.
Not saying that we shouldn't try.
Oh, definitely should try, but it's really hard, and that's why there really hasn't been any.
I agree.
But it definitely would help. Still not sure if it's worth the money. Because I really prefer to have races at real RC tracks so that people get to know these real RC tracks. For example, in Florida, the race Wicked Weekend, where that guy filmed the video with millions of views, people were asking in the comments. Oh, Georgia, sorry. Mm-hmm. People in the comments were asking, "Where's this track?" We're nowhere now. It's gone. They built it for the race.
That's true.
So, like this is the thing. Why what Race Time is doing, or even kind of what Joey was doing for a few years, is really not good for the sport. Building a track somewhere where there isn't going to be a track and having a race there is not a good thing. It can be a good for an event, for a one-time thing, but when it happens, like, okay, Neo Buggy was great. I'll take some of that back. But like,
I get what you're
when
trying to
it's
say.
like,
You're saying it's a good thing, but
when
at the
when
same
we're
time,
when we're getting away from the RC tracks where people can go to, it's worse and worse. So the more races at these one-time venues we have, the worse thing it is. Neo Buggy obviously was a bit of a specific event, and they also did a pretty good job of promoting other tracks around UK. But really, I prefer there be no events at one-time sort of events, apart from like really good chance like this one.
well, that's not going to change. I get
Oh
what you're
no, definitely
saying,
not.
but I'll be honest with you, man. Indoor racing has a place for people in RC.
Oh no, the race time as a business model,
Yeah.
the race time is great, and as races they are
But I
okay, and
agree what
they're
you're saying.
definitely improving. But if I would choose, if this was a perfect world, let's put it that way, all the races would be at existing tracks. Like think
get
about
that
the glory of Montpellier,
Yes.
or think about like Pattaya, what it used to be. That was a huge one. Like people knew that exact track.
Oh, that
That
scenic
track was
race.
crazy.
That
Yeah,
track was
Scenic
very
as
unique.
well. Or Barco in Europe for the Euro contest. That was like the track. Like you went to that track for that race, and you get to know that track. And
Also, I'm sorry if we
Yeah.
do this. If you do this at an event, it can't be electric. No, I'm
no
telling
way.
you,
Yeah,
nothing gets people attracted and attention when until they hear of one nitro car startup. And it's 10, 12,
Yeah.
15 of them. Like, oh, people's like, oh. And this race
thing
would have to
about,
be
like-
geared strictly to spectators and hyped up.
yeah.
It could be done, but it has to be done right. And it will cost a lot of money to do. And the manufacturers wouldn't
Yeah.
want to get behind it.
But like when there's people watching and there's an electric race going, people think they're just practicing. They don't know a race is going. If the announcer is really good,
No, I'm just telling you, like
He can
electric
make it
is in the
good.
way. Like you gotta have noise,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all that type of stuff.
yeah, the thing like if you're watching an electric race, you're just waiting when they start up the car. You're just waiting like when the race starts because there's like nothing happening. It's like really quiet noise. The cars go around the track, then goes a beep, and okay, all cars are finished. Obviously, announcer can change that and make it completely the opposite. I've seen like what Scotty done with
Yes.
EOS races and stuff like that. Like, okay, like, but in Nitro, even if there's like nothing happening announcing wise, it can be really interesting just by watching the cars. It's much more enjoyable.
I
think.
definitely want to do it, but we gotta do it right. We can't be some half-assed, like bubbling idiots. It's gotta be done right by the right people, professionally. But great questions this week. Thank you everybody for
really,
sending me.
like long ones as well. Like
You
the
made 'em
questions
long.
not long.
You made 'em
but
long
like,
by giving us
no, but
science,
like
man.
if you need to ask me like, hey, should I raise my upper link? And I answer yes. Next one, like that's a easy question. But if you ask like, hey, when should I raise my upper link? Like now you get a long answer. You know.
Well, anyway, guys, thank you for your questions. Keep them coming. If you guys can, use that affiliate link that's in the written description of this podcast, showing Beach RC some love, shows the podcast some love in turn. Max, we're going to bring you back for the SCRC Thought of the Day. I'm going on to the Tekno.R.C. interview with N.O.R.R.C.A founder and the man who started it, J.R. Sitman. Thank you to Tekno for their support of the podcast as well. Max, I'll hit you back up for the Sun City RC Raceway Down and Quiet and conclusion after this. All right? Thank you for your answers, by the way. Science mode.
Tekno.R.C. 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 is a premium manufacturer specializing in 8th and 10th scale high-performance off-road RC buggies and trucks. Visit www.teknorc.com for a complete catalog of their products. Tekno.R.C. Excellence in engineering. #Tekno Takeover.
Well, thank you to Tekno.R.C. for bringing us the main interview this week on the No Name RC podcast, episode number 142. As you guys have heard, I've mentioned this, and Joseph and many other people that have come onto the podcast when it comes to governing federations. We always talk about N.O.R.R.C.A, IFMAR, EFRA, Femke and Farmar, which are the main ones now. But back in the 80s, there were two. Actually, another one started and competed with Roar, I want to say. And that organization was called N.O.R.R.C.A, or the National Organization for Racing Radio-Controlled Autos. You've heard us talk about it quite a bit because I used to see it in the magazines, and then you might hear some of the old school guys talk about winning some N.O.R.R.C.A championships and stuff like that. So when Greg Degani reached out to me and goes, hey, I just found N.O.R.R.C.A's president on Facebook or something. I can't remember how your name came up. And I was like, do you know who he is? I was like, I do not, Greg. And it's like, yeah, J.R. Sitman. So he put me in contact with you. We finally wrangled a time that we could get you on here. Thank you for coming on, Mr. Sitman. Welcome,
no problem.
J.R. Sitman. So, Mr. Sitman, or can I just call you J.R.?
J.R. is absolutely fine.
Okay. I always like to talk when I get to know somebody. I like to find out, we have this one thing in common, that we like RC racing. How did that start for you? When was your first taste of RC racing, and what made you get into it?
Well, the beginning of N.O.R.R.C.A it's a bizarre story. I owned a computer repair company in Reseda, and right next to us was the hobby shop Race Prep, owned by Butch Dunn, and I believe I know his sons were involved.
Steve.
So Steve and Mike. Yeah. And so my friend of mine, his wife bought him an RC car, and he didn't even want it. He had it for a year and still in the box. And I said, well, if you don't want it, I'll take it and put it together. So I built his car, used to play with it out in the back parking lot of my repair company, and I just got hooked. So I started going to Race Prep all the time, ended up spending a ton of money, trying to make the car lighter and so forth. And then used to go to the ranch, the pit stop, and run some races. I was absolutely terrible because, like everybody else that starts RC, you got to have the fastest motor, and you want to go the fastest, but now you've got the fastest car and you have no control. So that's how I got started. N.O.R.R.C.A, what happened is Butch Dunn and Lou Peralta, who used to publish RC News, they owned N.O.R.R.C.A, O-R-R-C-A. And I forget who there was a friend of theirs that they asked him to start it back up. And he said, okay. And he asked me, I said, sure, I'll help you. Cause I knew a lot about databases and getting in touch with people and publishing and stuff. So the Butch Dunn and Lou Peralta told him that they'll lend him $5,000, which was left in the N.O.R.R.C.A account. And he said, no, I'm not borrowing money from you. You can give me the money. And that didn't work out. So I said, you know what? I was excited about it. I said, okay, well, I'll do it. I don't need your money. It's been, 20 years, trying to remember the whole story. And so it was going to be called New N.O.R.R.C.A. And then when the negotiation between me and them didn't work out, Neil of, I forget he used to build motors. He said, well, let's take, I already published the initials and the material, not much material, but N.O.R.R.C.A. And he said, okay, well, let's use these initials and call it this. And so that's how the name came up. So I just started putting stuff together, and I started doing advertising in RC News, and got a fairly good response. I mean, I really hadn't planned on anything, and at the time I was unaware of Roar. I wasn't there to compete with anybody. I was just going to try and help the local area, just that area, get RC going again. Because when Butch Dunn and Lou Peralta just stopped doing it, they just stopped doing it, and they had an existing track. So I went there and we did some preps and got the track ready. We didn't really run any events, just had some people come over and stuff, and with the advertising. And I decided there was no events coming up, so it's kind of weird. Rather than have little small events, I decided, well, I'm going to do a N.O.R.R.C.A Nationals. So just start at the highest level. And so we had a deal with the Hobby Shack, which was in Glendora or San Dimas. We put together the Nationals, did tons of advertising, And then the track owner was getting complaints from the neighbors because they would run their races in the evening, and the loudspeaker was bothering the neighbors. So the city wrote him a couple citations and told him stop, keep it down, whatever. And he did start to turn it down, but then like the week before the Nationals, the city shut him down. So I had no track, nowhere to go. And I was kind of friends with, at that time, because it was all new to me, with Gil Losi. And then I met, so I asked him, I said, can you help me out? And he said, well, that weekend belongs to the off-road gas cars. And he said, well, let me get in touch with Gary Owens and see. And then I met him, and he agreed to stop their event and let us use the track, which was, I mean, he turned out to be a wonderful friend of mine. And so Gary Kais did the announcing. I really didn't do a whole lot of stuff. I actually raced in the event and was obviously terrible. But that's how we got started. And so that event went really, really well. Gary Kais did a super job of getting it going. And he was telling people, he said, there's a couple little problems, but this is N.O.R.C.A's first event, give him the opportunity, let him get started. And so he was very, very helpful. And then we had the only really incidents, we had the motor tear down and the stock motors and the race prep motors. The wind was supposed to be, I think, 22 AWG, and theirs was 22 AWG, but it was, I think that's what it's called, but it was a Japanese version. So it was actually a thicker wire, and there was a big controversy about that. But anyway, that blew over. That didn't make Gil Losi too happy, but the event went well. Competition Plus and RC News published it, and that's really where we started. I didn't really pursue it. I never contacted the entire 15 years. I don't think I ever contacted a track and said, do you want to join? It was just the first event went well, and I'm really rigid. So the event went really well, not that event so much, but the events after that, I made sure they started on time. You had, after your race, you had so much, you had 30 seconds to a minute. I forget, it depended on the race. Put your radio away, get out there and turn marshal. And the races just went like clockwork. And that was a huge portion of why we grew so fast, because the racers, they would come, they knew the race was going to start, on time, within 5 or 10 minutes, and they'd be out of there, in a reasonable amount of time. And a lot of the tracks that I talked to, the racers were like, we'd get there at 7 o'clock in the evening, and we go home at 1 a.m. because, like, racers were allowed to call a timeout, or I need a break, or I'm not ready. It's like, in my events, if you're not ready, you're not racing.
That's how it's supposed to happen.
Get to the track. I mean, you've been there all day, and so that was a big portion of why we spread, because the publicity was good, and the racers liked it, and so that's the beginning of it.
Okay, I wanted to track back on N.O.R.C.A. So that was already a federation that was what, like California based, or how did that work? Okay,
yeah. I didn't know them. I knew Lou Peralta and Butch Dunn, and they're the ones that told me about it, but I had never heard of it. And they had shut it down. I guess it was just too much of a bother for them. They didn't want to be running races and stuff, but they had a track and they had a driver's stand, and so we just used that.
Okay. And according to Wikipedia, I'm trying to get the dates here. It says that N.O.R.C.A. was established in 1987. Is that about correct? Okay. So the Raw, I think, like, Jay Housley won the won the IFMA Worlds in 1986, I want to say. So maybe a year after Jay won that. All right, so you kind of, it's weird. Then you kind of just stumbled onto this, like, as a beginner in RC, you got this N.O.R.C.A. federation, and then you kind of got the rug pulled out from underneath you. Then you figure out, hey, we can still use the initials. Let's call it this, and then, like, it's crazy, because I thought, like, maybe the reason you guys done this was to compete with Raw, but it was actually like you kind of not stumbled on it, but it was kind of like, like almost like you stumbled on it.
Yeah, I had no intention of competing with Roar, and I admit didn't know there was a Roar. So we weren't. It was going to be just local, not even just California, just that local area.
Right.
But and then I found out that there were more tracks around, and people heard about us. And, like I say, I never went and solicited, you want to join N.O.R.R.C.A? I never had to. They started coming to us, and it was amazing for me how quickly the word got out, and, how fast we grew. And, once I started doing the events that actually needed sponsors and it cost us money, it wasn't, at the beginning, it was a little difficult getting sponsors. I mean, one company that was really reluctant was Novak. He did not believe that there should be another organization, and I mean, I never pushed him or said, well, why, or it's like, and that's fine. And so I think it was probably maybe 2 years before he came on board, and we always got along really well. He just didn't think there should be two organizations. But with the publicity N.O.R.R.C.A was getting, it became much easier to get sponsors because their names were in the magazines. We always, every event we did, I always paid someone to write an article so that the publicity was there, and we just grew. And at one point, I'm stepping forward a little fast, but at one point, maybe about 8 years into it, our active membership was higher than N.O.R.R.'s.
Do you have number? Do you know what numbers it was? Because I've been trying to get numbers for a while. Wikipedia says 14,000. It says Raw was boasting at the time the largest with 14,000, and then 17,000 in 1994 and 17,000 in 2002. So
I would say those numbers are, from what I recall, that's pretty accurate.
Okay. All right.
But I don't know if N.O.R.R.'s numbers, if that's active members, or I thought they had more members than that.
Well, they also do on-road and everything else. Did you guys do that as well, or was it?
Oh yeah, we did. Okay. We did it all. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. We only started out with off-road.
Okay.
That's all I had intended to do. That's all I like to do. And, so that's where we started. And then went into, I guess, it progressed into dirt oval, then asphalt oval, road course. And then our final edition, which wasn't really much of an edition, was we did gas. So there weren't a lot of places that you could run gas in California anywhere. So that wasn't a big part of what we did. But we used to race at a really, really cool location in Dominguez Hills. It was a bicycle velodrome.
Oh yeah.
And it was huge, and we actually rented it. It was in really good, smooth condition, and the races there were incredible. And we actually built pit stands for the drivers down at the bottom, and we had a timing system that was built by B&B Software, that when they came through, that we could tell if they were speeding, because we had limits. They had to slow down, and we could tell if they were speeding. So we'd get a beep, and they'd get docked, and they had to sit there and wait. And that was a really, really fun track, because it was super fast. I mean, you can imagine a bike stadium and the speeds that the cars would go. And Cliff Lett, I don't know, is Cliff Lett still with Associated?
Yeah, he is.
Wow, so he must be their main designer.
I believe he's still active in that. I've been trying to get him on this podcast. I probably should know that, in it. But yeah, he's definitely.
I know he built a car that was just for exhibition to go, and it was, I don't know how many batteries the thing had, but the speed was unbelievable. I think the first time he ran it, he actually blew the tires off. They just came off, and then next year he got that under control, and it was unbelievable to watch.
I remember it in the magazines, and he was doing all that, the speed runs and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So I do remember that N.O.R.R.C.A had the gas truck nationals too, which was pretty big for you guys, especially when gas truck was really booming in the 90s. That's like when Greg and all them guys got into it. How far, I guess, if it started in 1987, when did you ever do this full time, or did you still have another job while you was doing it?
For the first couple of years, there was no income from N.O.R.R.C.A. So I think I probably started doing it full time. because it grew pretty fast, maybe year 3 or 4.
Really?
Yeah, it was, and I had a secretary that used to take care of all the memberships and stuff, and I used to travel, and cause like I say, because we grew so fast. I mean, it was $20 membership, which is nothing, but you know, when you've got 5, 10, or
members.
5, 10, yeah, that adds up, and then we didn't have, worked out of the house, so didn't have a lot of expenses, just the traveling and stuff, and the major races never cost us. I don't think it ever cost us any money, maybe 1 or 2, but the sponsors were there, and they paid for the trophies, and the track provided the staff. So yeah, it wasn't a lot of money, but it was a living.
What did N.O.R.R.C.A used to offer racers besides the races? Was it anything like insurance, like probably what Roy?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, we had full insurance. That was not really attracted to the racers. I don't think. I never heard anybody make any comment, but it was attracted to the tracks.
Yes.
Then they were covered. And in 15 years, we had one claim, and we paid it out of our pocket. It was like the guy tripped on something, and hospital bill was like $250. So we never even used the insurance.
Interesting. Now, at its peak, so did N.O.R.R.C.A, which was the first out of state besides California that kind of got into N.O.R.R.C.A? Like, where did it grow? Did it grow right across America, or did it stay like a West Coast type of vibe, or how did it work?
You're asking me to rack my brain. I know Nevada wasn't one of the first tracks. One of the first tracks, and I'd actually have to go. I probably have a list of all the tracks. So I would say it was definitely out of, the next track was definitely out of California. And if we do this again, I'll look up some notes and stuff and maybe give you some more specifics. But yeah, it's like I say, it's been quite a while since I've done this.
So where did it spread? Did it go right across America? Like, did you guys have regions all across America? Did you have it split up, or did it?
Oh yeah, we didn't split it into regions, but we did. Our farthest track was in Rhode Island.
Really? So how did you guys do it? Like, how did you work it?
Well, we just tracks would come to us. Our fee for the track was $100 a year, so it was nothing.
Really?
And then we would split the race money with them. Excuse me. And I would travel all the major events. I would travel to. For most of the states, we had directors. So if I wasn't there, they would take care of stuff, and that worked pretty well.
What were your roles and your director's roles at these races? Did you have more than one, or was it just one of you guys?
Well, when at a major race, I was in charge.
Okay.
I mean, I ran the whole thing, and meaning that the race ran by my rules on my schedule. It started, like I say, it started on time. You didn't have there's no breaks, and I need to stop. But no, the directors would run smaller races that I wouldn't fly to. But the nationals, all the nationals I was at, some of the championships I was at. So, but when I was there, I mean, I was running the race.
How about your format? Did you make any format changes from what people were currently running, or did you come up with any interesting formats yourself for races?
Well, we didn't really change. I mean, our rules were pretty simple. I mean, our rules, honestly, after we did get started, they were very close to N.O.R.R.'s. So, I mean, I wasn't going to reinvent the window. So, I went through theirs and didn't really make a lot of changes. And because I didn't think it would be a good idea to have our set of rules and their set of rules. So they have to show up with different types of cars and so forth for the racers. It wouldn't be beneficial. So, our rules were pretty much honestly based off of N.O.R.R.'s rules. I mean, why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah, I get that. But you just ran punctual. Like, you know what I mean? And that seems to this day, to be honest, it's something we still gripe about. Races taking too long and people not getting out there to turn marshal and race directors not, we're going to dock your lap, and they never do it. Yeah. It's still a problem.
I'll give you a funny story. In Connecticut, we had a race, and it was a championship, and it was a 2-day event. So with the way that my structure was, and I don't know if N.O.R.R.'s is the same way, but I don't care. But whenever the first day of qualifying was over and you made the A main, you're going to be last to run. But if you made the A main, you're there for the F main to turn marshal. So we're running one of the races, and one of the turn marshals, I'm up on the stand, and they're calling for him. And we hadn't started yet, and we're calling for all the turn marshals, and this one kid was the only one missing. And then I asked, "Is he here?" And they said, "Yeah, he's sitting right there." And he was a good driver. He was an A main driver. He was one of the locals that was well known. And they said, "Yeah, he's sitting right there." So I grabbed the mic and I called out his name, and if he needed to be up here in turn marshaling, he didn't look up, didn't do nothing, just working on his car. So then when it became time for, actually I think before, I docked him a lap, so that put him back in. I mean, I didn't mess around. If you're not turn marshaling, you're getting. So I docked him a lap, put him back into where his qualifying, and his dad got in my face. I mean, his dad was, well, the alarm didn't go off and we were late and we had to get ready. And I said, and I was very calm. I never got upset, but he was in my face. And the racers, we're inside the building and the racers are all watching. And I said, well, I understand that. And that's, and if you're going to be late or whatever, you could have had somebody, let somebody else turn marshal for you. I said, but the problem is he was sitting in his pit, working on his car, being called a turn marshal. I said, how is that acceptable? And then the guy stole my face. And he said, you're a jerk. I said, okay. So your son is sitting in the pit. I'm being very calm. I docked him a lap for not doing what he's supposed to be. And I'm a jerk. He says, yeah, you're a jerk, or asshole. Maybe he called me. And I said, oh, okay, fine. And he walked away. At the end of the event, he came up, apologized, and said his son had a great time.
Yeah, but he was the asshole, to be truthful.
Oh, yeah.
His son was the asshole because he didn't go out there and turn
he's sitting right there in the pits, wait, hello, Billy Bob, turn marshal. Didn't turn around, didn't look, didn't acknowledge. And I didn't know who he was until, they told me where he was sitting.
All right, so I guess now by this time, Raw knows who you are. Were you guys battling each other? Was there any push
No, we absolutely worked together.
Really?
Because of this. Oh yeah. I mean, as far as schedules and stuff, because I was a businessman. I mean, I'm doing this for money. I'm living off of it at this time. And how much sense? Roar's the biggest organization, so how much sense would it make for me to schedule my events, my major events, near Roar events? I would lose. I mean, the manufacturers have to go to Roar events because they have to. That helps them, at least the off-road ones, qualify for the IFMAR Worlds. So no, I won't say I always scheduled around their events, and I wouldn't. It just doesn't make any sense for me not to. And there was one incident where Roar scheduled on top of me. I forget who was in charge at the time. No, Gil Losey Sr. was president of Roar at the time, but he didn't do the scheduling. I mean, him and I were friends. We got along great, and he helped me, and I was very appreciative. And they put their nationals right on top of mine, and it was going to kill me. So I called the track owner. It was one of our tracks also, and I talked to him. He said, "Well, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, and because Roar's a bigger organization." So I scheduled a meeting with Gil Losey and went there and talked to him. And, he was, we got along really fine. And Gary Kais was there at the time and worked for Losey as vice president or whatever he was. And, he told Gil that I had done that to them once in the future, putting my event on top of theirs. And that absolutely was not true. I mean, but anyway, we worked it out. Gil got on the phone and it actually moved their event. So it was, there was no reason for us not to get along. And my goal on N.O.R.R.C.A was not to compete with Roar in any way, shape or form. I didn't care if they were the largest in the world, and in the United States they were, and that's fine. But, working with them, especially when I started, even all the way through, was the smart thing to do. There's no sense to be butting heads with someone, that's an organization that's larger than you.
Which makes sense. I mean nowadays it's so many races out there. It's hard for them to organize their races. You know what I mean? So many big races out now. I mean, in the nitro world, there's so many as there is. Like, I would have to sit down for about an hour and jot down all the big races I think I know in America right now. So, and that's also a big issue with races now, just period, around America, always scheduling on top of each other, especially like I'll give it like the Southeast, like in the Carolinas. I love it down there, but they have a good bit of tracks down there, lots of racers, but the weather isn't always cooperative. So when there's a sunny weekend, like there's always going to be a conflict of interest with some race. Some races, maybe tracks within 3 hours, 2.5 hours of each other. And that's one of the reasons. And now no tracks, like to find a track that's affiliated with Raw right now is probably like finding a needle in a haystack. That's how bad
really?
Yeah.
Huh.
That's how bad it's gotten. There is no real federation right now. There is, in sense, there is Raw, and they put on the races and stuff like that. But there's so many other bigger races and tracks out there right now that are nowhere, not Raw affiliated, don't want to be Raw affiliated, don't care about Raw's insurance, none of that stuff. Now, to say how many tracks probably aren't affiliated with Raw, but like a good bit, they probably see no benefit of being affiliated with them. But that's just the deterioration of the federations over the years have gone by. Do you feel that maybe having N.O.R.R.C.A pushed Raw a little bit, though? Because you guys, not saying you guys were competing, but they had to be, because they were the bigger organization, they couldn't be shown up by the smaller guys. So they had to be on top of their game as well back in the day.
The change that I know that it made for them was down the road was their races ran a little differently. Mm-hmm. They started to run like mine with on time and no bullshit and sorry.
No, that's fine.
So that's the only real change that I know that they made. I know at the beginning it was funny. Bob Rule, who's a friend of mine from Bowlink.
From Bowlink.
You know
yes.
Bowlink. He's not involved with Bowlink anymore. His son is. But I took their, and this was like first couple of years, took Roar's membership card, mm-hmm. and I made mine very, very similar. And it made him mad. I didn't know him at the time. He said, I spent, days designing that thing. And I said, well, it didn't make any sense for me to just start from scratch. I mean, it was just a membership card. And he said, no big deal. So we became friends, and that was interesting at the beginning. But as far as changes, I mean, like I said, I wasn't involved with Roar. I didn't like the way the only thing I didn't like is that and it probably maybe is still today, is that the manufacturers had a lot of say in Roar, and I didn't. They had no say in what we did. I had a board of directors, not published. Nobody knew who they were. They were not Bowlink or associated or any of those. No manufacturers at all. And I would, I made the decisions, most of the decisions myself, but I would always go to them and say, well, if we do this or what, and so that was great. And I got asked, nobody believed me. I shouldn't say that. People didn't believe me that manufacturers weren't involved, but I never made a decision that benefited anybody. In fact, I had one of the manufacturers, I won't mention his name, offer me $20,000 to use their motors at all of my events. And I said, no, I said, I can't, I'm not forcing the tracks to use your motors if they don't want to use your motors. I mean, that's a dictatorship, so.
I can believe that. I can believe that 100%. I think Raw and EFRA do a lot of testing and approval work for companies too. So for like new products like batteries and motors and all that stuff, and they get paid to do that. So that's where a lot of their money come from too. So like if a new stock motor comes out, they got to approve it or something like that and make sure it fits all the specs. I could be wrong, but it was explained to me like that.
I'm sure they did. We did the same thing. Mm-hmm. We didn't do batteries. We did motors.
Okay.
So if you had a new motor come out, we did motors, we did road course and asphalt oval body approval. We didn't do battery approval. We would send out the motors to a lab. Might have been the same lab that Roar uses. I don't know, and they would just charge us. It didn't cost that much, So, but we weren't approving things and getting paid to approve things.
What if I told you that stock racing now is not stock, and it's probably more expensive and more popular than mod, and there are stock racers that actually make money off stock racing now?
Oh no, you're not surprising me at all.
It's
not
crazy.
At all. One towards my last year, one of the biggest factors was that it had for the racers, it had gotten so expensive. Mm-hmm. I mean, do you go, let's see, at that time, a top level set of batteries, one set, 8 cells was maybe $120, and you could use it. And if you were a top racer, you would use it once, and then maybe a couple of days later use it again, so it could recycle itself. And think about it: you go to a race like a velodrome race, with the bicycle race, the bicycle stadium, and you're practicing. And I mean, the cost and the tires was another factor, and it just got so expensive. And and for racers to go to races, and families, a dad and his son, to go and travel, and the hotel, and then the expense, and it just towards the end, it got. I guess the batteries was one of the largest factors. It just got so expensive, and the people that were winning everything, they weren't paying for batteries. I mean, their batteries were given to them. Now, I'm sure they are to this day. And yeah, I am aware. Even back then, there were racers being paid to race.
No,
but
they
were not.
This is just stock guys now. Like they actually make a commission. When they win a big stock race, they make a commission from their motor company. Not everyone, but top stock guys. That's what I'm talking about.
It's just like NASCAR. I mean, It's the same. It's the exact same thing. You go to an event, you run an associated motor, you win a major event. I mean, that's advertising. Mm-hmm. People are going to run out now and buy associated motors. So
I think like mod should be the upper echelon. They're still paid salary drivers, but everybody likes stock. I think it's more the tinkering too, as well. What they do with the cars, and they lighten them up, and they have all this different stuff. Stock's big business for 10 scale, big business. N.O.R.R.C.A, did you ever communicate with them, being as they are the overall governing body of R.C.A? Did you ever try to get officially recognized by them as a federation?
I did. Yeah, I did for a couple years. Contacted them. The communication was fine, but they weren't ready to recognize. They said specifically there can only be one organization in the United States that qualifies for the Worlds.
What did you feel about that? Were they right? I mean, maybe they kind of were, but
I don't know why would that make a difference? What if there were 2 or 3 organizations that and you pick 20 drivers from N.O.R.R.C.A and 20 from Roar and 20 from Billy Bob's racing organization. I didn't know. I didn't agree. I don't know why there just had to be one organization in the United States. But I guess it wasn't just. I mean, the organizations that they allowed, whatever country it may be, I guess it was the same thing for them. So it wasn't like they were picking on me. It was just that's the way they were structured. So in the UK they have one organization that qualifies, and in Australia they have one organization that qualifies. So I didn't agree, but it wasn't that. The reason that I wanted to be able to have my drivers qualify for the Worlds is because that, like for Roar drivers, that was a big deal. Mm-hmm. If they wanted to they had to go to a Roar event. If they went to a N.O.R.R.C.A event, they could still get their titles and whatever, but it wouldn't help the ones that were looking to go to the Worlds.
Exactly.
That's why I wanted it, but it never happened. I didn't. I pursued it a couple of years, and then wasn't that big of a deal.
Okay. So, at what year do you think that that N.O.R.R.C.A was at its peak?
I would say we stayed steady for quite a while. I would say our highest membership and tracks was probably about year 8 or 9, and it stayed pretty level. We didn't grow, a lot after that. And we had the good tracks. We had tracks spread out across all of the regions. So we
maybe
didn't
RC
grow.
was only that big too. You know what I mean?
I don't even know how big it is now. One thing I do enjoy seeing though on Facebook is some of the guys that are like they're now in their 50s.
Yeah,
and they're still. I mean, the good guys. Tony Nisingers and those guys. Yeah. They're still racing RC. It blows me away to see those guys did it all this time.
I would love to do a proper census on RC right now, but not everybody joins. Nobody roar, man. They don't. Any time people roar is when the Nationals is going to come up. That's their big membership drive. Well,
there was something that, a couple months ago, maybe.
Oh yes.
I mean, more than a couple, probably before. I'm in New Mexico now. We were in California, and I think just before we moved here, which was December of last year, I had someone contact me. He found me on Facebook and asked me if I would help him. He said they were thinking about starting N.O.R.R.C.A back up. And I said, yeah, we can talk. I mean, I can give you some advice. And I heard from him twice and then never again.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And you're going up against establishment now. But what was the eventual, how long did it last? And when did it start to decline? And when did it just that's it, I'm done? Well,
the events, even towards it, N.O.R.C.A I was involved for 15 years.
Okay.
So the events, the turnouts and that, they were steady. I mean, the off-road nationals, we draw, 400 to 600, and it never really did a big drop off. The reason, what the drop off was me. I mean, I was just, thinking, the money was, it was okay. I could make a living at it, but it wasn't fun anymore. And the hearing that racers are being paid an additional $1,000 if you win the event. You offer somebody in a national event $1,000 to win, their mindset changes. They're now going to be super aggressive on that track. And that's the kind of stuff that, I couldn't prove it. Racers would tell me, and I couldn't say, oh, well, you paid him.
Now. It's open. It's called contingency, and it's well known. And there's even contingency. For JQ Racing and other companies, we have contingency for all our drivers.
But our membership did drop off a little because of the expense, not because of anything that N.O.R.R.C.A was doing wrong. It's just, I talked to, like I say, with families that travel. It's just that's the batteries and for their kid to be competitive, you had to have money. I mean, to buy the equipment and stuff, and it just families just couldn't do it.
So when did you eventually shut down? So you did for 15 years. So you did it till into the early 2000s. Roughly.
Yeah. So I sold it to, I don't remember her last name, a girl named Karen. Her and her father bought. She used to help me with the secretary part start of it, and I thought she was going to turn it a little different, run it in a different direction, and I helped her with some stuff and whenever she needed it, but she didn't. It died very, very quickly after I sold it to her. Very quickly. I mean, for example, she ran an event at the big bicycle stadium in Dominguez Hills, and we had the bowling, the transponder system. I'm sure they still use that, right? And so, but you need that. Yeah. So you need that to score those cars on when they're going, 400 RC miles an hour. You can't count them by hand. And she left it in another part of the state and had to have somebody come and bring it to them. And so it wasn't a smart thing for her to do. For me, it was good. I mean, I got paid to sell it, and I helped as much as I could, but she really didn't ask for a whole lot of help. And I thought she was going to take it in another direction. One of the best RC tracks that knew what to do was Racers Haven in Bakersfield. It's not there anymore. I don't think it's there anymore. It's owned by Martin Buchanan, and he was smart. I mean, They ran their local races, and then for the stock class, they would give you a motor, and you would turn it in at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, their turnouts were good, and it was the cars that they run equal. I mean, he was just smart. He was a good businessman, and that was just a smart thing to do, because that made it fun for the families,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then they're like, one example he gave me was, you know, racer, you know, and it happens. He accidentally packed up all his stuff and left the motor in the car and went home. So when he came back to the next race, they took the motor and gave him a new one, you know. But that type of thing, that is probably even today, I know in my time, that was lacking throughout the United States. The track owners needed to be more focused on the local drivers and the families and making events so it's fun, and so it's not cutthroat, and it's not super expensive. And he knew how to do that, and the track did quite well. We held events there, and he actually told me, he said, I don't make any money off of N.O.R.C.A event. He said, I make more money when I'm running my own events. But he was a friend, and he, you know, continued to be in N.O.R.C.A track and run our events, and they always went extremely smooth. He did off-road, dirt oval, and asphalt oval. I don't know if we ever did a road course there, asphalt road course, but that was a smart track owner.
Well, it sounds like also N.O.R.C.A kind of declined at the same time that 10 scale kind of declined. Like at the end of the 90s, early 2000s, 10 scale declined, and that's when 8 scale boomed. That's like, I call that the attitude era of RC. Like I would say 2000-ish, like 99 to now. Like now, what brought back 10 scale was brushless and lipo technology. So now it's so easy to get into 10 scale. You ain't got to worry about power. You ain't got to worry about batteries fading too much, right? Now it's all
Really?
it is tires though. So what they're doing now, right, is they run on these clay. They just had the nationals. They run on these clay tracks. They take a tire. They sand on this. They have a ghost tread. And that's what works best. They like sand them on, then break these tires in with like a microcloth. It's the tire prep is what's crazy. But what's getting big in America now is AstroTurf and carpet racing. They've adopted a lot of it from the UK and America and Europe, because those tracks you can set up in like a church hall or a school gym or something like that too. And people just prefer it. Like cars stay clean, they don't get really dirty. It's grip for days. You know, it's RC's changed a lot from when you was into it, but listening to you're still talking about the cost of the same things. Tires, like, you think tires was bad back then? I've seen people literally at a nationals with $1,500 worth of tires and they don't even know which tire they're going to run. And that's just a regular person at the nationals.
And see, and that's what makes it hard for families. How do you afford that? I mean, you know.
Well, now we're on this, and I am like, with this podcast, I'm more catered. I'm into the professional side of racing. I love that side. There's a professional side of racing now, but it's not really professional. Does that make sense? Like, we have professional drivers, but we don't have a professional league for them to be in or anything.
Oh,
like that.
Okay.
And we're not treated as I just think, like, we have all these pros, we should use them to promote. A lot of things we could do. It's just changed, but still some of the fundamental things remain the same. We kind of think, I want to say club racing is where you learn where to race and where people should get into RC. Use big races to showcase what you do. Use the club tracks to get people into RC. There's no real federations in America. This RAW is very non-existent. They're there for their nationals and all that type of stuff. But when tracks and people don't want them, I think the federations play a big role, in promoting RC as well and getting families there and all that type of stuff. So all of that's kind of gone from American racing, and we're trying to get back to some of those things. Like I always say, we need to go forward, but there are some things we need to get back. And federations is one of them. Like, America needs a proper federation right now that's going to do something proactive. But yeah, it's crazy. Like, just listening to you, like the same issues that we have now. Costs is getting too high. Too race is too expensive to go to and all that type of stuff for normal people. And then now you have it where these big races, the club tracks suffer because everybody waits like, oh, I'm not going to go race this weekend because I'm going to save my car for the big race next weekend. So it's like it's weird, man. We have all these races, we have all these tracks, but we still have not got enough people into RC yet, you know? So I'm sure it was the same problem back then. You always want more people. I don't think RC,
of course.
I don't think RC is much bigger, like numbers wise, than what it was when N.O.R.R.C.A was at its peak. Or
Well, the thing that's important to the local tracks, and you say the major events, is that's their publicity. I mean, that's how people know that they're there.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they're going to get more racers in. But the like I said earlier, the track owners need to be, I don't know, better educated, or not. Maybe that's the wrong word, but
they need to be.
Focus. They need to focus on their local.
Yeah.
Take the big event, take the publicity, but like Racers Haven, make sure you've got a regular following every week where people just love to come and they're not spending a ton of money.
All right. Yeah, and now we have a lot of one-off races. So it's just like a big indoor race, and that's it. It's a track there at a horse stadium, indoors, guaranteed race, busy for 3-4 days, and then Monday it's empty. So, which is I like that too, because for international people it's a guaranteed race. You get to race, you don't got to worry about weather, but it also is a detriment to the club track, So it's so weird. So I guess you officially resigned from N.O.R.R.C.A what year? 2002.
Well, I've add 15 to 87, and that'll tell you.
Yeah, I'm bad at math. What did you do?
Me too.
What did you do after N.O.R.R.C.A? Was you into RC at all? Was you just completely burnt out? Did you just go? What did you get into?
I really didn't. As far as RC, I didn't do a whole lot. I mean, as a driver, I wasn't all that good. I couldn't really focus on the car and stuff like that. So yeah, I went to a few events afterwards, but I think. See, where did I mean, I obviously went back to work full time for doing inventory control, which was my early background. So, but I don't know if I sold all my equipment, or I think I gave it away to a friend's son. I mean, they just didn't need it anymore. But I wasn't, at that time, after 15 years, I wasn't really that gung ho on racing, and I wasn't really, during N.O.R.R.C.A's time. I mean, other than like the first nationals, I raced in it my own, but in the future, that happened very, very seldom. Yeah. I couldn't focus on the event and be sitting in the pits working on my car. I mean, I needed to worry about how the race was going and because a lot of, I mean, I'll give you a perfect example, which is, I couldn't believe it. We had our Dirt Oval Nationals. I won't mention the track, but it was back east. Beautiful track. You'd know it if I mentioned it. And
was it in North Carolina?
I mean, it's. I don't know. I don't remember. I'm kidding. But no, I don't want to. But a beautiful track, and I don't think it was North Carolina. Anyway, super fast, super smooth. The people, the racers were, I mean, great people. I loved being there. And they had the scoring system, the AMB bowling scoring system, and they had a enclosed scoring tower. Mm-hmm. And I'm up on the stand, and I'm watching the lady that's starting and running the races, and she'd start the race and walk away. And I'm thinking, if a car miscounts, how is she going to know? If you do the printout at the end and it shows a missed lap, how do you know that wasn't a missed lap? And I went to the track owner. I said, I can't have that. I mean, she's not watching the race. She doesn't know that the cars are missing the loop or whatever. So that my point is, the way there were several changes I had to make at my events when I'm watching people like that just not pay attention to the race. And then one big off-road race we had is we always used my scoring system, and they designed the track. And when I got there, the the place where they were going to put the scoring loop was after the scoring person. So the cars were already gone by the time they would have gotten counted. So I said, no, we're moving that. It has to be the guy that's doing the announcing has to be watching the cars. Here comes cars 6, 7, 9, and 12, knows what's coming towards the loop and make sure that they count on the computer. After they're gone, he can't see the car numbers. How would he know? So at my events, I mean, that's an example of how I ran things. I mean, it was, and nobody ever bitched about it or said, okay, well, I understand. And that it was always fine.
Yeah. No,
but
dude.
Just
they have software now with these lap count and stuff. You can do. It's so amazing. They have 2 loops on tracks now, and I think the last time I heard of a big loop issue was 2017 T-Bird's Nationals win. He didn't count for the last 30 minutes, and they hadn't counted him. But it's so foolproof nowadays. It's very rare to get loop issues, and it's so crazy what they're doing. If you can have these different formats, and they have everything. You can sign up for Live RC, and you can have all your tracks history of races and everything. You know, now, nobody even needs printouts. You just got your phone or, and it's crazy how RC is.
Wow.
And you know what? With all of that, we still run behind. Is
it the same company that's producing that equipment?
No, I believe it's the same company. And guess what? The one thing in RC that doesn't lose value is a personal transponder. They sell for $100 brand new, and they sell secondhand for $90 to $100.
You have your own transponder?
Oh yeah, that's been you have guys that run 3. Well, you have been on the RC for a while. Yeah, I think having the transponders that you talk about that people used to use, that you used to borrow at the track, I haven't seen one of those in so long. But yeah, everybody has personal transponders now. It's so much easier. No rate,
So every transponder has a different frequency?
No, every transponder has its own number. So it has its own number. I believe the people that do it now also do full scale stuff too. So
I know the transponders that we used to use is the same company that NASCAR uses.
Yeah, well, I believe this is the same company, same people that do it. So now it's and now remember, back in your day, you also had radio impounds. None of that no more. Everybody's got 2.4 gigahertz. You ain't got to worry about turning your car on and sending somebody's car crazy. You can start your car up in the pits. Everything.
Well, that makes it nice.
But guess what?
Yeah,
with all of this, I'm telling you, we still run behind. If you're not good, if you're not a good director or if you're not a good hustler, races still run behind.
Well, that's the track owners, whoever's run. That's their fault, not the racers.
Sweet.
But my races ran on time. I don't care if we had 600 people, where we ran on schedule.
Well, like I said, there's a big talk of starting another federation right now, in America. I at first I wanted that, but now I'd rather just fix Raw. I think it was that you guys were able to do it after listening to your story. You could do it back then, but now it's just it would just be so difficult, and we would run into that federation would run into the same issues that you ran into with IFMAR. They would never get accepted by IFMAR, and that would be the one of the key things for people, because that's why people go to the nationals. I think it's the top 40. They go to they're eligible to go to the worlds. So I don't know what to think about that, but people who listen to this story, it's definitely not as going to be. It sounds easy how you did it, but it definitely wouldn't be that easy nowadays. Because
I'm wondering if the person that contacted me several months ago about starting N.O.R.R.C.A back up, I wonder if he listens to your stuff, and maybe that's where they got the idea.
Maybe they did, because I've been preaching that for a while. I've been preaching it, but I think we should just keep it now and just fix it. And that way you can fix Raw, and then you can fix IFMAR. No offense, the problem is it's just it's a very old guard in there, and they kind of we're trying to make RC cool, And,
do you know any of the Roar official names? Their names?
I do. Jeff Parker, he is the I believe he's the promotions, and he's also the interim IFMAR president. Chuck Kleinhagen, who I've had on this podcast, is the Roar president. Another, actually Clayton Young, I think his name, or G, I think they call him. He's actually pretty good too. There's definitely good people involved in Raw. It's just that we need to get some fresh blood in there and get things going again, because I believe America needs a proper federation, and I think that can be something that helps bring RC together, brings a little bit more organization to it, and helps promote it to new people.
Back in the day, there was the president of Roar. I don't remember his name, but he used to wear bright pink sunglasses. Ring a bell?
No, that's way before my time. Way before my time. Well, I could only imagine the Facebook message used to, like, some guys contacted you to talk on a podcast about some defunct organization that you ran back in the 80s and early 90s. Crazy.
Well, you know what? It's actually it was nice to get your call, it's because I mean, even if you go on, like I tell people that I just met or something, or just go on the internet and Google N.O.R.R.C.A. It still comes up everywhere.
Mm-hmm. It does, and it comes up in our conversations, and now we understand it a little better. I honestly thought that you guys did this to, like, go after Raw. I didn't know that this was the story. So I learned something too today. I learned something as well. All right.
Yeah, I was amazed how quickly we grew in the first couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, I think that would happen if something new started here too right now. But I think ultimately they would hit that speed bump of IFMAR, and that would be
good. See, I don't know the demographics now of RC, so I couldn't even give you my opinion. I think you're right. It probably would be impossible.
Sweet. Well, JR, thank you for your time. I know you got things to do. It was great chatting with you. You have a good evening, and thanks for coming on to the No Name RC podcast.
Glad to be here. And if you have any follow-up questions or something, I'll be glad to answer them.
All right, sweet. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sun City RC Raceway, the home of El Paso's world-famous motocross-inspired 8-scale off-road track. The Showers family has over 20 years' experience creating one of the premier tracks in the USA. Their world-class facility has everything: handicap accessibility, covered beds, gate starts, space for parking RVs, trailers, and lights for night racing. Follow SCRC on Facebook under Sun City RC Raceway for updates, upcoming races, or host your own race.
Yes, and thank you to the Sun City RC Raceway for their continued support of the No Name RC podcast. Shout out to the Showers family, Joey, Christian, and Corbin. Great family. If you are in the El Paso area, go check them out. You have the U.S. Open in October happening there. Go check them out. It is a great facility run by a great family who loves RC. Let's support them. All right, Max. So this is the SCRC Down and Quiet. Now, we got talking to this a little bit back. We did talk about this on last week's podcast, but I kind of wanted to go a little bit deeper, as it looks like it is pretty much the writing on the wall for OCRC. Orange County RC, I guess that's what it's called, short for. So,
yeah.
They haven't officially come out and said that they're closing, but it's pretty much the writings on the wall. I posted about it, I think, last week. It stirred up a lot of comments. And one comment by a guy that I've never really talked to, but I know he earned West Coast RC, was Danny Stokovic. So I don't know I'm sorry, very bad with last names. And what he said made a lot of sense. And it's just about the industry, period. And we pat ourselves in the back, and we like, even recently, like, oh, Kimi Räikkönen just bought a ready to run or whatever. We do all this stuff, but we really need to step back and look at the real significant meaning of OCRC closing. Now we can say, okay, it's in an expensive area. SoCal is expensive, which is all true, all this type of stuff. But this is a facility that's been there for 13 years, and now it's not going to be there. They've had multiple Reedy Race Championships, multiple memories made there. This is like, I don't know, losing a holy object in RC, I would want to say. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Is RC racing growing, or as I learned that I learned in when I was a prison officer, are we just seeing cases like just increased cases of recidivism? So for people that doesn't know what recidivism is, it's like recycling, reoffending, relapsing, backsliding, all that stuff, repetition. But we used to use recidivism as a word in the prison. So when basically people that like to come back to prison, you know, because there are people that actually like to go to jail. I don't know why, but they do. They go out, they go out and they come back and whatever. So are we seeing that in RC? Because we see this, we see a bunch of people that get into RC, we see a bunch of people that get out of RC, and then we see them trickle back into RC. And I want to know, why is that? Like, is RC racing in a healthy position, or are we still kind of just like ostriches with our heads in the ground? Well, you know, and just saying, look, we have all these entries and we have this, but it's still primarily the same people go into these races. So are we growing as RC, or are we just seeing recidivism, or are we seeing relapses, recycling of old racers that are coming back? You know, what is it? Like, I think it's a mix more of recidivism and old racers coming back, and maybe people that just get tired of doing RC because they realize, okay, I'm not as good as I thought I was. I'm going to get out, do something else, come back. OCRC is closing. The church next door is apparently taking over the lease. Money talks and bullshit walks. So the church obviously has more money to pay for that facility than OCRC does.
Spoken.
I'm just saying, like, RC isn't, like, if one of these facilities can, it's a lot. Like, imagine the overhead to rent this and all that stuff. And even the hosts of this this segment, SCRC, the reason they're able to survive is because this is a labor of love and the track's on their private property. But the amount of money that they have put into this track at, you know, in El Paso is amazing too, to make it such a great facility. So should we look at the closing of OCRC as a sign that maybe everything in RC is not, in racing, is not hunky-dory, is not as rose-colored as we want, as the internet and everybody will have us believe when we brag about entries, Max?
Yeah, I mean, my take on this is sort of one track dies, another one comes up. Another take on this would be, like, RC is sort of a sport where a lot of things are ahead of it. So let's say for any property or land, obviously the first thing to build to it is probably like housing or supermarkets or hospitals or whatever. Second is like private businesses. Then it's like hobby areas, community areas. You have, let's say, football in the top, in America baseball, then some other like sports activities, and then RC is way at the bottom. After like RC, it's like pretty much all is like wasteland.
I would say,
to be honest,
RC,
like,
on the totem pole of
reason,
life, RC is buried about 6 feet under that totem pole.
Yeah, I mean, like, in importance of like things,
you know what a
in
totem pole is,
our
right?
society. Yeah.
Okay.
So kind of like that. So that's why, as cities like New York have already been for a long time, and California, especially the LA area, is going towards, like, RC just isn't important enough to remain in that area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that area, the space is being limited, and we already kicked out everything less than RC. Now we need to start kicking out RC as well. And obviously, probably OCRC could find a new spot. It'll be,
do they want to,
probably more expensive. Yeah, exactly.
Is it worth it?
It's probably going to be more expensive. It's probably going to be not as good. The location is probably going to be worse. So, like, there really isn't, like, I believe in this exact scenario, it's that just the area run them out. Like, they weren't fit for the area anymore. RC hasn't become big enough to remain in that area. And I think I think this is more of that sort of issue instead of it reflecting anything off of RC.
Okay.
Because I do believe OCRC was actually doing good in terms of like money. They were bringing in money, which makes it a profitable business, which means that RC is doing well. The issue is that RC, in terms of human like socioeconomic things, is really down at the bottom. Like people ditch RC first, and it goes in land, it goes in hobbies, it goes in whatever.
Yeah.
Like you ditch RC first, and then you start cutting from other things.
Well,
And
a good example
this
is
also answers to your sort of the old guard coming back, or whatever you want to call it, like old guys coming back. This also represents that pretty well as well, because RC is the first thing they kick when they have kids, the first thing they kick when they have a girlfriend,
or when they break
the
up
first
with
thing
a
they kick
girlfriend.
when they or when they move to another city or get a new job, whatever. RC is the first thing they kick when they don't have enough time or interest in it at that point. And then when all of the kids grow up, or you sort of already have a nice living, you make a good amount of money at work, then you're like, whatever, I have a lot of free time, I have enough money to run RC, why the hell I won't just buy a car? And they will buy a car and get back into RC, because they always liked RC, but in their life they liked other things more, or other things just were more important. And this is exactly the same thing with sort of this housing, or well, not housing, the space situation. Where can you build a track? Where can you, especially like OCRC, like, come on, this is a very wealthy neighborhood in terms of like the whole of America.
Yes.
Like,
well, I mean,
and having an RC track there,
in the
it's
Bronx, New York,
actually
they have
pretty
a
crazy.
track.
That was impossible.
Outdoor track.
They do?
Yeah, it's called. I didn't even know it's called Gone. Actually, I'm
Yeah,
supposed.
but that's really impressive. Like that they have somehow kept it there, but most likely they will have issues. Most likely they will at some point have issues with people wanting to kick them out, or they probably already had a lot of issues with that, because RC affects such a small part of the population as a hobby. Because football is like, even if you don't American football or baseball, even if you or your kids or your close family or friends don't have anything to do with baseball or football, some of their friends or whatever. So you
can
always
watch it and enjoy it and get invested.
Yeah, you can watch it. Yeah, exactly. So, and like kids do that in school and stuff. Kids don't like do in school PE do RC. They like they do football or they do baseball or whatever. So that always goes first. And that's the issue with RC, like, and we will never be there. Like, even if we do all the things right, we will never be there. Even any motor racing isn't at that level. No motocross, no F1. Like, karting tracks get closed all the time. Motocross tracks get closed all the time. And this is just because they are in the wrong space. They don't belong into that space anymore because the town around them has grown.
But was OCRC making? This is the question that I like to ask. If it was successful, right? Yeah. Wouldn't you try and repeat that? Like, hey, this is a good thing. We need to do it again. Or wouldn't you try and keep it there? So that's where my thing comes. Is it viable? Was it viable, or was it just a facade? Was it just a?
Well, it depends on the story. If the story holds true that the renter just didn't want to rent it again, they wanted to give it to the church, then okay. Then, and OCRC had nothing to do with, like, even if they offered more money or whatever, they couldn't do it. Then it's like, okay. Yeah. It's like, that was the reason. But if it is like they wanted to discount, or the renter raised prices because housing around the area raised and they weren't willing to pay for it, then it clearly is that they had issues. And then it could resemble more about the whole RC community. But as of, if the story holds true, that they were kicked out because of they just didn't want them there, not because of any monetary issues or functionality issues.
Obviously, I think the church can pay more. You know, that's just like having having an ATM, really. I'm not trying to diss church, but I definitely do not go to church.
We went through this 500 years ago in Europe.
You still have. Yeah. I just, for me, you bring up some great points and some good talking points with, it's just so much, like, we're so low down on the totem pole of things for people to do. It's definitely one of the first things people ditch when shit hits the fan, or there isn't time. Like you always see people. I have seen increased people that probably were just into R.C. just saying, "Hey, we're stepping away from R.C. now. We're not going to do it anymore." And father-son teams, or just people, and I just wonder what happened there too. The thing is, this is what I like to say.
My take on. Okay, go ahead.
I like to say you may leave R.C., but it never really leaves you. I've left R.C. and always been drawn back to it. Now I'm back in it, like the thick of things. But I still think we're still failing to a point where we're still not getting the new people into R.C. We're just seeing the recidivism or the recycling of older people coming back in, or want people that used to race, like you said, when things get better. We need to figure out how to keep people. It's hard, I guess, because it's just not got that cool factor either. You know what I mean? When you really think about
so
it.
there's a few ways to solve it. The first way is to make it so easy and like so that you have to put no effort into it to be competitive. Mm-hmm. Let's say video games. You open your computer, start playing, and you can be competitive, have fun. RC, you have to have either a really close track, or you need to have a car. You load up the car with your RC stuff, you drive to the track, you spend money on fuel, you spend money on entry fees, you spend money on all this stuff. You go to the track, you whatever you do, you put your car together, you break it. Like, it's a lot of work. So one way to make RC more accessible is just to make it a lot easier. Well, that's not going to be easy, and that most likely won't really happen. And always, to be fast, you have to put a lot of effort into it. And with video games, it's, on a pro level, yes. Effort. But in a hobby level, no. Because, like, you know, in video games, like, if you want to be a pro, obviously, you have to work for it. But in RC, even if you want to be a hobbyist, you actually have to work for it quite a lot.
Dude, it's hard, man.
Yeah. So that's one of the issues. So we could take a route to try and solve that and maybe get a people from that way. But I think that will never work, really. The other way, as you said, is the cool factor. So to make RC so cool that it's worthwhile. Mm-hmm. Motocross, karting, a lot of pretty much any other motorsport that's bigger than RC. Pretty much all of those require the same level or more money and effort and time. And even some regular sports require a lot of money, effort, and time. And what draws people to those sports is the appeal of the sports. How fun is it, the actual doing of the sport? How much are they getting out of it? And then if they're trying to pursue a career, or if they're trying to have a sort of a long-term hobby, they want to be like a state champion or something or whatever. Then, like, at that point, you need to think that the thing you're doing is so cool that you rather sacrifice other things in your life for that hobby. Mm-hmm. And RC has that appeal for a very narrow audience.
Like people
and
like
that
us.
appeal has to made. Yeah, for us, like, it's obvious that you go out on a track in the morning and you leave at night, and you do that every week, pretty much. Like, for us, that's normal. You leave for a race like Friday night, and you drive home Saturday night, and like stuff like that. For us, that's normal. But for a lot of people, they don't have anything in their life with that much appeal. And if they find something, it's most likely going to be something other than RC. So pretty much what we need to do to make success by doing this route instead of making RC more accessible is making RC look so cool that, like, people are hooked to it, kind of like with motocross or whatever. And it's going to be hard, and RC will never be as big as motocross or MotoGP or F1. But RC could be
a little bit
big
bigger.
enough. Yeah, big enough to, like, make it a little bit of a difference. And all it takes is just things clicking together. And to be honest, like, RC will never have that, like, crazy jump and be there forever. It can be like, let's say, if people are making now 100,000, like the top pros are making like 100,000 a year. In the future, if RC gets big, maybe they make $1 million.
Maybe.
But, like, that's the that's like the craziest scale of
Right.
all.
That's
Most
like-
likely RC will just have a little bit more pros
Yeah.
and a little bit more professional racing. But even to have that is actually a huge step. It's a pretty big step to
Yeah,
make.
I agree
And
with
that's why we are preaching for RCGP and stuff to do that, because it takes a lot of work to take nominally a small step, but it's actually a big step in terms of the industry, I feel. And I again went for a monologue, but I think I made at least some good points there.
Well, I think one person, they were talking about federations, but I can say this for the RC industry. The RC industry is like a super tanker trying to make a turn. And that thing does not turn on a dime. It turns in miles.
Yeah.
So we're turning right now. We just started turning, I think. We've just turned that wheel. The rudder's starting to move a little bit. We ain't fully turned yet. So we got to keep on
And
that.
when all the other hobbies are already almost fully turned, well, not all of a lot of other big hobbies have already made the full turn. We're quite a far away behind.
Yeah,
so we got to get small speed into it.
Exactly. We got to make RC cool, man. We got to make it so like, hey, you could go to a ground and say, hey, I race RC cars. Like that.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's when guys will be like, oh, see, RC cars is awesome. They won't be calling them toy cars then. And I think we definitely...
Maybe we need to attract... Hey, you know
need
what?
females.
We need
more
to
females
attract...
racing.
We need to attract female. We need to have female fans. Then all the RC car drivers will be like super liked people by female fans. And
then it'll be cool.
but through the females, we attract the males.
Yeah.
This is because the females are most likely not going to drive. I'm being really divisive here, but most likely it's the guys who can want to buy the car and drive and break it or whatever.
So you're saying maybe
we need to impress the girls.
Fans, yeah.
Maybe we need to impress the girls first to get the guys involved. Maybe we have thought about the wrong way.
I never thought of it that way till you just said it, Max. I never thought of it till you just said it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is OCRC a sign? I think now that the way you explained it to me, I kind of changing my thoughts and thinking more to what you're thinking. But it's still in the big picture of things. We just need to make RC cool.
Oh.
Max, your camera died.
Ran out of battery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine. We're closing up here anyway. What do you guys think? Do we need to have Max's idea and get more female fans that then in turn attract more male fans? So that
was a joke, by the way. Don't take that seriously.
Oh yeah, come on.
Probably won't work.
Most of the stuff that we say on her is a joke anyway. So, but we do what we
gotta
don't
make
joke
sure
about.
this time.
Yeah, what we don't joke about is the actual growing of RC. So,
exactly.
We all have to be a part of it. We just gotta make it cool, man. We gotta make it cool. Max, thank you for your time. I know it's not that late in Finland, so you're probably gonna go to a party. You know, university life. Gonna be hard to get you in this podcast from now on. Thank you for your time. Good luck in university. Enjoy it. You've earned the right to be a normal person for a little while. Yeah, to be a normal person for a little while, like not getting up and going to a race at 5 o'clock every weekend and all that stuff. You know, you've earned that right.
Yeah.
You're actually gonna do exactly what we were just talking about. Like, you know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've liked it so far. Let's see. I mean, it's still a bit weird to be back in school. Like I had 2 years of working and RC, so a bit different. But I mean, I actually kind of took the first few weeks as a holiday. Really, I haven't had a holiday in since I left for the army. Like before that, I went to work.
I need a vacation.
Yeah,
too,
so
don't worry.
I think that's been good. And last weekend I went to a race at my old local track. Mm-hmm. They had a big race there. Last I won of the nationals actually. And it was 10 scale, but I kind of got more excited about racing again. So probably gonna get excited over the winter again.
Awesome. Anyway, guys, remember invisiblespeed.net. Get those early pre-orders in, and you can get the run through with the pro guys. I know we said we was going to do a live this week, but it kind of worked out where the people that I want to involve can't do it. So we will be back next week with a live. I will be testing these sour candies. I'm gonna put as many as I can in my mouth.
Why do you always torture yourself? You always like
These things are
try
supposed to
to
be
kill
so
yourself
sour that
in
they
the
can make
lives.
your mouth bleed. So that's always a good thing. So we're gonna try and raise some money to go against cancer with that. So join in next Thursday or Wednesday. I'll make a post about that. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you to the patrons of the podcast, the N.O.R.R.C. squad. Without you guys' support, we can't do this. So please share this podcast and make it go viral. Thank you to all of the patrons of the Patreon of the podcast. Without you guys' extra support, none of this is possible. Also, it looks like Max is gone. He's probably going to go party somewhere. No, he's back. I thought you was partying somewhere.
I clicked the wrong button.
Oh, okay. I thought you was like,
I
I
was
got
trying to
another
move it.
text. I gotta go party. Gotta go. Thank you to the patrons of the Patreon. If you wish to be a patron, you can. The link is in the written description of this podcast. Also, big shout out. We have sponsors. We have advertisers of this podcast. We need you guys to go support them, show them some love, show the podcast some love. And they are Mayako, Beach RC, TNR Fuels, Hitec RCD, Tekno R.C., JQ Racing, Sun City RC Raceway, Lugs Racing Tires, Manscaped.com, Papa Willie's Traction Tonic, Donovan RC Balance and Charging Leads, Racecraft USA, RCGP, House of RC. We have links plus coupon codes for some of these in the written description of this podcast and the link tree description of that. Please click on there and show these sponsors some love. In turn, shows this podcast some love. How much you guys love the N.O.R.R.C. and what we're doing. We're getting ready for 3 years of doing this, Max. Next month, we're getting up on the end of the year where we're going to come up with the N.O.R.R.C. 2.0. We're going to revamp and do everything over and do everything fresh for you guys and bring you the content that you, the listeners, deserve. Max, anything to say before we sign out here?
I haven't heard anything about this revamp. You need to tell me the news. But anyway, yeah, nothing more. It was some good questions. I think it was good questions as well. Really long answers, but I kind of like the long questions that have a long answer, because you can talk about much more and you can reach out to different topics. But yeah, I'm just enjoying life here.
Max is enjoying life. It's all about university partying. Remember, everybody, Nitro is the glory. E-Buggy pays the bills. Not Max's bills because he's in university.
The government does it.
If you ain't, what was that?
I dropped something.
If you aren't grinding,
I'm screwing your outro.
Yes. If you aren't grinding, you're sliding. Nitro is the glory. E-Buggy pays the bills. And yeah, remember, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Have a good one. Have a good weekend if you're racing, everybody. Send it without responsibility. Lefty and Max out.
Thank you for listening to the No Name RC podcast. We greatly appreciate all the support and love from you, the listeners. Without all of you, none of this is possible. Special thanks to our patrons on Patreon. If you wish to support the podcast further, you can at patreon.com/NNRC podcast. As a patron, you will receive early releases, special content, and Patreon-only giveaways. Also, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and our website, www.nnrcpodcast.com. Remember, Nitro is the glory, but E-Buggy pays the bills. If you aren't having fun, it doesn't make sense. And if you ain't grinding, you're sliding. Lefty out. Nitro is the glory. Nitro is the glory. Nitro is the glory.
wasn't so bad.